Hey there, Wargamers, Justin on Patron. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'd like to welcome you guys back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in today. If you are new here, please alpha strike that like and subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for having my six. I appreciate you having my back. Thank you so much for being an awesome lance mate, star mate, whatever the case may be for you. Thank you for tuning in today. And with that said, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Here in a moment, we're going to be transitioning over. And one of our patrons, Dan, he is one of the major backers over on Patreon, and he backed at the level where he could get some one-on-one paint time. And instead of doing paint time, he really wanted to talk to me about list building for Alpha Strike. I'm not a tournament winner, but I come from a tournament background in terms of other games I play. And he was just curious about my thought process on what he might want to build and wanted some help. And that's what he wanted to do. So today we're going to switch over and we'll have him on Discord with us. And we're going to look at his units that he's got for his army, units he might want to get, and you'll get to see how I approach list building and hear his thoughts or concerns, and then maybe see what he might decide to go with or learn from the experience. All right, so we are back, and I have Dan Pig Clone from Instagram. I think you said what your handle was.
Yep.
So he is with us today, and if you guys have been up to Nova Open, he is one of the guys that helps run the Capital Palette. Are you like the guy, or do you just help? What is that? What's your process?
I'm the guy, so I run everything. I do all the administrative work. I do have Dave Taylor, the wonderful Dave Taylor, is the head judge, so he helps me out with the judging portion. Actually, I help him out. I do the administrative part, but he's the one who rounds up all the judges and it sets the rules, and then they go on their merry way for the next 6 hours looking at figures while I'm, gophering and making sure they have food and eat, bathroom breaks, and filling out the paperwork and that kind of fun stuff.
That explains why you're stressed out while you're there. You got a lot going
just
on.
a little bit. I make sure that no one's figures are breaking. It's a good thing that Catalyst did a great job at these plastic figures because I can drop them all day long and not worry about them. But I don't want to break an Eric Swenson's piece, or Will or anybody like that. I don't want to drop any of their pieces, so that can be a little bit of a stressor. So it is a joy. I get to meet some really cool people. I get to listen or to meet some listeners and just people that, strangely enough, know who I am. But that's the story for today.
The Eric guy that you mentioned, I got invited to his Discord by a buddy of mine who does a lot of painting. Teal Security, his name's Eric. He's like really upgraded his painting. I was like, yo, like you're killing it. Like this is insane what he's been able to, like, last time I was in his stream versus now, it's like night and day. And he was like, yo, like I'm friends with this guy. He gives me feedback in his Discord, and then I use his Discord to network when I go to conventions, and I meet all these artists, and they give me feedback. So he invited me there. I didn't realize he was at Nova. And then Will, which you had mentioned, I didn't realize this, like he judged my piece, or at least my bust, 2 years in a row, I think. So I'm waiting to hear back from him. I messaged him on Instagram, and we were going to connect to have a session, like a voice session, to just give me feedback. And then we weren't able to connect last week, and he hasn't got back to me. But
he's super busy. He's probably, but I think someone mentioned he is the busiest person in miniature painting, just because of his regular life, the stuff he does on the outside, and then his painting that he's able to churn out. So he is super busy. You just got to ping him. He always forgets to get back to me too, because he has, of course, dozens of people who are out trying to figure out, hey, what did I do with my figure, and why did I only get a silver? Because I know this was a gold.
I have a video. I don't know when this one will go up in relation to the video, but I actually have a video for my experience at Nova in regards to the painting, and it ended up being like a half an hour. And I shared a lot of my thoughts and opinions. I think Capital Palette's great. I basically you'll hear it too, but I think I'll probably be one that resonates with you because I basically talk about why I don't like the paint comp at Adepticon, because the crystal brush leaving was a huge detriment to the art community, I think. Mostly because it was replaced with Golden Demon, and that's GW, right? If you want an open format, you don't have it. And the Capital Palette is like the last big open format that I'm aware of. There's probably some other ones, but like the big one that also has the mini wargaming stuff. And if for whatever reason, and again I talk about this on my video, if Nova ever like kowtowed to GW and was like, cool, Capital Palette's gone, Golden Demon's in, I would be crushed. Like I paint probably one bust a year, which isn't good for progress, but it's good for my mental health. Like I always try and do one, and it's for Nova every time. And if I don't have that ability to enter, like that'll crush me. And then there's a bunch of other artists who do that too. Like I don't like being shoehorned into one cat or one miniatures product. If that makes sense. Like I like walking through a vendor hall and being like, yo, that model looks cool. I want to paint it. It calls to me. And that's something that Capital Palette brings to the table that Adepticon doesn't offer. So not to like give you pats on the back, but like I hope you guys keep doing it because that's a big deal for me, and I'm a small time guy. So
that's the plan. It's a format that's really picking up steam because it's kind of hard to have people paint your figures if you only go to a couple cons or
Yep.
you're only an online dealer or something like
Yep.
that. But we allow people from 3D printers. They can sculpt their own stuff if they want to.
Yep.
They can buy anything. I mean, we had ton of Catalyst figures this year, which
Yep.
was awesome for Battletech. You'd have some garage kits that have
Yep.
come in. You have one-offs. It's fantastic, and that's I think that's the future. We're hoping that's the future, and other people catch wind of what we do and how awesome it is to come out to Washington D.C. and enjoy the scenery and
Yep.
enjoy all the other artists. But if you're not doing that, then you're playing Battletech. And from what I hear, there was a pretty cool freaking couple days of Battletech going on also.
Yeah, so Dan's trying to be nice and shine a light on some of what I was doing at Nova, which was the Battletech events, the grinders, and the tournament, which those were cool. But I'm an artist first, a gamer second, and the Capital Palette obviously is a big deal for me. But in regards to the Battletech of my 4 entries this year, which is very important, I planned this all out. I was like, I'm bringing 4, and next year, now that I realized that I didn't pay attention to the categories. I knew like single model, unit, diorama, and then the bust. And the bust is always my main one, even though this year that was the worst placed one. Next year, I might try and do a 5th one if I could get like a vehicle or war machine or whatever they call it. I have one of the prototype Timberwolves from Catalyst that they gave to, actually, they didn't give it. They gave the Marauders to the Karinsky Comebackers, and I told Brent Evans, I was like, hey, can I get that Mad Cat? And he gave me the Mad Cat, and no one else got one. So I have this like 10-inch resin Mad Cat that would be like in the category that like a Imperial Knight might be in, I would assume, because it's like big.
Yeah, we have all of our vehicles are in one category, so you'd be up against those shabby sculpts. And yeah, that would be cool. I would be super stoked to see that, and I would definitely, no one's hearing this, I would put it in a really cool place. Because, purist at heart here about Battletech stuff, so I definitely would want people to see it. And yeah, that would be kind of cool. So I look forward to seeing what you got to do with that one.
We'll see if I get motivated to do it. But that was a big deal for me this year. Like I thought the bust would place higher, and it didn't. But then the Battletech, for the most part, did, which was shocking. But again, I talk about this in that the video whenever it goes up too. But like the fact that I placed pretty well, I feel, with Battletech. Like, if I get a silver in my category, I feel like that's pretty good. Like you always want to do better, but like I feel like that's an expectation for me. I'm like, hey, I did this. Like that feels on par, for where I feel like I am. But when it was Battletech, I was like, my Battletech placed silver in 2 categories, and it's up against, in my opinion, models that sculpt-wise are probably superior. So, like, the paint job had to help sell it, and I felt really good. Because, like, GW has got amazing sculpts, and I'm up against units, like, with my Jade Falcons. Like, they're okay. They look good, but, like, Space Marines, like, the Lion and his little retinue, like, that there's a difference. So I felt really good knowing that like Battletech had some time to shine in the case, which made me feel good about it. I was worried about entering them, but I knew I'm going to go and throw something in that case. And then Battletech did better than I expected.
Well, the judges shined on you, and you did a fantastic job. And all of our sponsors threw a bunch of cool stuff at you. So hopefully you can use it.
Oh yeah, we'll get to the point of the video, folks, in a moment.
Yeah, I know. I could talk about this all day long. About palette and painting.
I mean, I think that's good. I think it's a good format so people know. I also think that like we could talk about strategy and unit selection and all that stuff all day long, but like once you're outside of the actual game, you're still a person. You do stuff, and you're probably going to spend way more time with your painted minis and your Capital Palette that you run than you ever do playing. At least that's how I am with stuff. I paint more than I play. So knowing what people do when they're not playing the game, I think is good, and it gives them insight to be like, hey, like this dude's like me. He has a real life, and when he's not doing this, he's doing this nerd thing. So, but yeah, sponsors are really good. I got my Game Envy desk organizer thingamajig, and then Monument Hobbies. Like Jason was really cool, and I got a little gift certificate from them, and I left them this big paragraph note saying thank you, and I was like, hey, I already have all your paints. I'm only getting swag so I can wear it in the videos. So I got a bunch of shirts and stuff so I can wear them on YouTube.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, Jason, Jen, and everyone at Monument like that. They've come up, and this is probably the last paint thing I say before we get into what we want to do. But being there since they were with Creature Caster, and then seeing them branch off and like really go into their own thing, it's been amazing to see them like grow. And hands down, some of the best paint.
Yeah, I mean, we could tout it all we want to say they're great and everything, but I'll let people know if a paint's pretty crappy, and I really do like using their paints.
Yeah,
I got to try the new ones out though. I haven't tried the new sets that came out a couple weeks ago.
I don't remember the name of it, the Jade one or whatever it was. I used it on some Night Haunts or something from Underworlds for a commission, and it's nice. The satin finish for it wasn't anything that I cared for because I was going to matte varnish anyway. But the color, like, it's super nice. I immediately wanted to use it through the airbrush, which is what I did, and those minis turned out pretty cool. So
cool.
Anyways, yeah,
we'll go ahead and get going and figure out what in the world am I gonna build.
Yeah, so Dan had sent over before a list of mechs, and then he changed his mind. And so we're going to be going through in our little segment here, basically from scratch. On the window here, which you guys have seen the whole time, I have my master unit list up. And basically I'm going to be talking with Dan about the units he has that he might like to field to build his 375-point list for Southern Assault. And then maybe some minis on the bench that he might want to paint, based on how the list goes. And giving him some feedback on how I approach list building. And you guys in YouTube land, when this goes up, you're going to see this too, and it's madness. I'm going to probably have like 50-something tabs up here shortly. That's just the way that it goes. And if I was going like super hardcore, I use an Excel spreadsheet too, which we might actually go ahead and do.
Maybe that's in our second video. We'll do a spreadsheet.
I mean, so what I do with the sheets that's really helpful for me is I just keep track of units. That's the easiest thing, which since I'm going to ask you like about units, that's probably good. So do you have a list of, I think you said you were going to be working on Wolf's Dragoons instead now?
Yeah, but I think let's just stick with the ones that I sent to you over originally, because I do still like those, and I may just incorporate them. So I don't mind just going with those. My Wolf Dragoons I've already established. I have a good quantity of those. Okay. So if I ran out of time, I can always use them.
All right, let me bring up. Did you send that to me? I think it was on Facebook. Let's grab this.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it started with a Mercury and ended with a Highlander. So let's see if I can copy that.
Yeah, I did have a Highlander.
Right, so should make my life easy. No, it isn't. Hold on. Let's bring up a notepad here. I wonder why it's not going one at a time. All right, so this is what I would do. I've got a list from Mr. Dan here, and normally it would let me like paste this, and it would put them all in their own. What are you doing? When I paste a big group like this, it would have made them all in their own line. It's not, but we're going to go ahead and just plug these in here. So bear with me. These. You know what? Hang on. We're going to do it like I would do it. So I would come in and I would just have my unit list. I wouldn't worry about the specific type yet. Because what I would do is I go through my collection, and I don't personally build lists that are necessarily 100% competitive. I build lists that are semi-competitive with what I already own, which is what it looks like you got going on here. There are things that you can do with your list where you're like, hey, I really need to bring this thing because it's going to help me win. But I didn't paint that thing, and I don't want to. So like that's kind of where I'm at. It looks like you got 2 trebuchets. So we'll just
I have 2. Well, yeah, because the way that I had this built, actually, I don't know if people are seeing what you're doing or not, but I had 2 different types in there or versions, and I just wasn't quite sure because I would use them for different parts of how I feel like gaming that day. So and the same with the rifleman.
I do see a rifleman. Yep.
I have a rifleman and I have a rifleman 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to change the name on that one because that one's not correct. Yeah, so that's I just happened to throw those in, but I had that chassis and that's what I was going to use, and then I can modify depending on where I go with things. But these are the ones I found were kind of closer to what I was looking for. And when I was building my list, I was trying to get to the 375. So I get pretty darn close with a lot of these. And then that's when things were like, oh, well, I can change different versions. And then, oh, I forgot about piloting score and those points. And then I was like, let me burn this list and start over again.
All right, so I've got your full list of mechs here. First thing that I would do, is there any particular mech that is you have to have it? So like for me, for like my Wolf's Dragoons in particular, I forget the designation. We could find it if you were running one, but there's a Timberwolf in the Dark Age era that has a 12 movement. If I'm playing in an era where I can use that and my faction could take it, I will forever and always take that one. It is an auto include. I have to have it. Of the units you have here, is there anything that's like, yeah, these are all cool, but this one I really need to field it. This variant is the one that like I'm going to build around it. Or do you not have that
build
feeling?
Around? No, I really don't have one. Like normally it's going to be one of the big ones, either a Marauder or a Mad Cat if I have one.
Okay. I guess
Battle Master is normally one, so that was my first one of my top 3 that I've always had. So Battle Master, let's say in this case, we can work around a Battle Master.
Okay, so my terminology of build a list around might have been incorrect. I probably should say it is a model that you have to have in your list because you want it. The list doesn't necessarily have to complement them, but that's
still the case.
Okay, cool.
It's either they're going to be that one or it's going to be a Marauder.
Okay, so I've got both of those. What we will do in the master unit list, we're going to go over to units. Do you know what era you're trying to build out of?
So and this is where things get kind of, let's see, these are all Innisphere. So this is going to be Early Succession War and what's the other one called off the top of my head? The first 2. Star League and Early Succession War.
Okay.
That's where I was going with this one. So a lot of these will probably end up falling off, or there'll be very, very few that I can do. And I'm not stuck to this, so we can because this won't be Wolf's Dragoons. This was just going to be a mercenary unit.
All right, so standard mercs then, not wolves.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
The wolves are going to be another set that I will do another time, and we'll use here too.
We'll sort by mercenary, and I'm not sure how Bobby's going to rule. At my event, I did Innersphere General as well. We'll see when you submit your list if it gives you any flack. I allowed this in my event because Innersphere General, I feel like it's the generic that everyone has. That's Innersphere, and then there's a Clan General or Clan Homeworld General. So I usually sort this way because that gives you the units that, in most cases, your faction will overlap with. So we've got Mercenary and Innersphere General selected. I'm going to go ahead and not go with an availability error right now. And the first thing I want to do with your list is I'm going to look at some of these lights, in particular the Mercury. That is a really stellar light, and we want to see, all right, so the only Mercury that comes up for Mercs / Innersphere General is in the Star League era. So if you want to field that Mercury, you're going to have to build your list there.
Is that 98 or is that the 99?
This one is showing as 99.
Oh, okay.
Let me drop Innersphere General and see if that changes things. No, okay, so like even that one is specific. That's not even Merc. That is an Innersphere General Mercury. Let me bring up the one that you had specific. You had the 98.
The 98 was the one I had specific.
Yep. So let's bring that one up and just see what it was actually useful with. So that one is a Succession War, and so that one is a Liao Force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I like the Mercury. It's cheap, but the big deal with the Mercury that I like, so here's some strategies for why I like certain lights that I like. The Mercury here is at 22 points, which is relatively cheap. Its movement is pretty good. There's some light mechs that are a little faster. This one is 20 move, which is nothing to scoff at on a 4x4 map with deployment on turn 1. If you have to sprint, you're pretty much behind your opponent, and then turn 2 and onward, you're shooting them in the rear if you want to be. The big deal with this guy, though, is TMM4 is nuts, so you can hold objectives. He's got E&E, so he's not going to get hit with an ammo crit. So he's good for harassing, good for holding objectives, and he's cheap. And if you were to knock him up to probably like skill 5, let's go to the actual force builder here. So he is, if he's 5, I bet he's going to be like 19 points. No, 20 points. So my strategy with lights is that if you're making attacks, so when you're looking at this guy, he's got short, medium, long, 2-1-0. At 5 pilot skill or gunnery skill, you're probably going to be shooting most of the time at short range, and that's a mod of 0 because you're short. And against whatever you're shooting at, and they're probably going to average 1 to 2 TMM. You could try and hunt a light, but you're probably not doing that with this particular model. So if you have a skill 5 versus an inner sphere average TMM of probably a 1 at the weight classes you're going after, and clanners a 2, you're looking at needing 6s or 7s depending on what you're attacking to hit. And if you're on the rear with the way the FAQ has went now, you do get the extra pair of dice. So 3 dice, needing 6s or 7s to hit, which is roughly average. So you're going to be getting 1.5 to 2 points of damage every turn if he's shooting on the rear. The skill doesn't matter so much for him. Like, you could have him as skill 2, but he's at skill 2, for example, on someone's rear at short range, you need 3s or 4s to hit. So with lights, I like to see their skills a little higher, knowing that at short range where they're going to be trying to making attacks anyway, knowing that I still have an average dice roll most of the time. In gameplay terms, that works. For fluff terms, that's a little cheesy because you're putting a weaker pilot in there, but knowing that at short range they basically can't miss is the philosophy. If you keep him at skill 4 and you don't need to shave points, he's going to hit a little easier. But I find skill 4 is the kind of average standard for medium range, which again, you're looking at skill 4 plus medium range 6 against inner sphere average TMM of a 1, looking at 7s against clanners, looking at 8s on average to hit stuff. That skews up or down depending on what you hit, but looking at mediums and heavies, that's somewhere where you're going to be. So if you're going to be strutting around at medium range, having a better skill is going to be helpful. But for lights, high skill works in Alpha Strike. So if you want to run the Mercury at skill 5 coming at 20 points, that still saves you 355 points. Unfortunately, it's going to lock you to Star League era if you are committed to the Mercury. Let's see what other lights you've got access to. Because you've got, on your list, you've got a spider here. And there's a whole bunch here, and you've got a lot of eras. Yeah. So the next thing I would do here is I would sort by point total, and because I'm a cheapskate, I start at the cheapest and move my way up. So normally, this one's 17, which is immediately appealing to me, because it's cheap and light mechs die. Who's that usable by? So this is a Republic era one. So you have to be playing. That is a merc for Republic era or Dark Age. Let's see if it actually continues. Sure does. Cool. So that one's fluffy. The big deal with this one, it's dirt cheap. You bring this in at probably skill 5 or 6. He's probably coming at like 15 points. He's got only TMM 3 versus that Mercury with a 4, but he's got jump jets. So use them to grab objectives, and if they shoot him, oh no, you killed my light pawn. And he's dirt cheap. Fielding several things like this gives you lots of models to play the objectives with, and if they ignore him, you just run behind people and just roll dice. So I like that at 17, but we've got a couple of units here. And for anyone who's watched the video, this is exactly what I go through. This one has fewer selections. When I get to some of the heavies, I literally just like, boom, smash the whole tab, and I have like 30 things open. I start comparing. So if I'm starting to shave points, that's nasty. Okay, so this guy right here, this is a really nice one too. 21 points, so if you bring him at skill 5, he's probably going to be like 19. He's got strong jump jets in a jump of 20, which is absolutely insane. You jump 20, and your team mem goes from 3 to a 4 because of jump jets, and then you have strong, so he's team mem 5. He's not hitting anything, but if he's on an objective, your opponent can't ignore him. So I really like that. And then this one, the main difference between them, as I'm flipping through, He has got 1 more HP than the 8K variant, and he's got 2 more HP than the 8K variant, and 1 more than the 8R. But I like this 8R because a 20-inch jump is absolutely insane. Like a 5 TMM, he's probably going to get ignored. And here's the philosophy for gameplay. If you're playing an objective-based game, this guy jumps onto an objective, and like you're playing the odds. I'm jumping on objective. My TMM for the turn is 5. If my opponent does not clear him off the objective, I score it. If my opponent comes forward to contest, he's contesting, but he's still not scoring it, so maybe I can clear it. And if he absolutely wants to clear this light mech off so that he can score it, how much material is he going to have to invest shooting at a TMM of 5? And if you're playing at someone, let's say they bring in like a skill 3 at medium range, you're looking at 8s plus medium range 10s. 10s to hit that guy. So he can weather some hits. In addition to that, any turn that this guy's getting shot at, your other dudes aren't. So you make your opponent make choices, and one of two things is going to happen. They're going to shoot this guy because they have to clear him because they want to get objectives to win, or they're going to say, screw that, I'm not going to be able to hit him, I'm going to ignore him, and they're going to shoot at something else. And the other things they're shooting may be easier to hit, but they can take the punishment. And if they do that and you get the early advantage off the score, like this guy, let's say turn 1 you throw the spider on an objective towards the middle of the table, your opponent fails to clear him or ignores him, you score a point and they score none, you're up a point now. Now they have to actually fight you to get score, if that makes sense. You're able to be a little bit more defensive because now they have to score more points than you on a future turn just to tie it, and then another turn after that to get past you. So one of the things that I like to do, and I've talked about this in some videos on YouTube, let's say there's 3 objectives. I will throw a lot of stuff at 2 of the 3 on turn 1 so that I can get ahead of my opponent by a point or 2 if possible. Then I can sit back, and now all I have to do is hold those points. So I just sit there. I can ignore that one other point. You can have it. You have to completely clear me. And if you do happen to clear me off 1, hopefully I've A, contested your other one to deny a point, or B, you have to do that for 2 turns before you can get ahead. So getting ahead early is really important, and these guys are really hard to clear. So I'm just kind of rambling now, so feel free to jump in if you got thoughts.
I'm just listening and writing stuff out, man.
So this particular guy, I like if we're going to commit to maybe checking out this one, because Early Republic to Ill Clan, and he's tagged as mercenary, so you're good to go on that. I'm going to grab this one, and once I've got a variant or 2, I'll toss it in over here just so I've got the link and I can clear some browser space. Usually I'll end up with a couple of links because there's a few variants I can't quite figure out what I want to do with. And let's bring him back up one more time. That was the 8R, I think. He was 21 points. So I'll usually keep all the stuff up here. Actually, you know what? Let's just move this over. There we go. So I can see the points, and I can, at a quick glance, once I've kind of got stuff narrowed down, I can come in and be like, okay, I'm at 300 points right now. I have room for 75. From what's here that I've not used, what can I grab? So I think the spider is good. Let's see. I've got this notepad up here. You've got wasp. Let's see what wasps. I'm going to go ahead and actually sort this by availability era for the basically Dark Age era. So Ill Clan, Early Republic to Ill Clan. You probably shouldn't have a problem still fielding the units you want. You'll probably just end up with some better variants because of the time frame. Let's see what we got for wasp.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that when I was putting this together. And I was like, geez, man, if I'm doing such an early era,
you're limited.
Yeah, very limited.
Yeah, so not only are you limited, in the game, generally, a Dark Age mech is not forever and always better than a Succession War or Succession era mech, but there are some where that is not true. So, there are versions of the Mad Dog, for example. There is I think it's Clan Invasion era version that I like that's got 3 damage across the board. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but you also can't ignore him, and if you do, he's just consistently shooting at you. In the Dark Age era, there is a version that costs the same amount of points, but it has flak or something like that. Not a huge deal, but for the same points, you actually get a special ability that's useful in competitive play because you can shoot down VTOLs with it. So you run into some issues like that. I don't think it's going to be as huge of an issue here, but we'll see. So, in terms of getting your model count onto the table, a term that I picked up years ago for competitive, or not competitive, just playing war games in general is a term critical mass. Do you have enough material to play the scenario? So think of it like a chess match where, like, if you had half the pieces that your opponent does, they have a lot more material to play with than you. And if you guys go 1-for-1 trading material, they're way ahead of you at that point, because you have a lot less to trade. So when you do trade something, it better be worth it. So I like to bring in a certain number of units that feels good for me to move on the table. It doesn't mean they always can kill stuff, but they can play objectives. So these light mechs that are dirt cheap, I love them because they're throwaway pieces. And this one right here, just the first one at 10 points. Let's make sure he's still good to go. His TMM is garbage. It's only a 2, but he's got to jump. So if you're going to run this guy, you're probably going to jump him all over the table, right? Which means he's basically TMM 3. And he's got 2 damage at short range, only 3 life. If you were to jump him around and say put him in cover, so let's call it 4 TMM because he's got obscurity or cover. If your opponent has to invest, let's say they're Mad Cat with like 7 damage, shoots at this wasp, and it fails to kill the wasp, this sub 10-point unit made 60 points worth of Timberwolf shoot at it and not kill anything. Like, you bring this guy in, let's actually bring him over to the actual force here. Throw him at let's just throw skill 6 and just see. He's 8 points. And you could leave him at 4 at 10 points. Of your list, this guy is 3% of it, right? So or less. So I guess 10% of your list would be 37, and this guy is a third of that. It's nothing. And yeah, he's not going to do much, but he's a throwaway piece that could just jump on objectives. And if they ignore him, he'll just get behind you, and he's rolling 3 dice, just like your other Spider or Mercury would be doing. So I'm a big fan of that one. But these are pretty close in price, so now I'm actually going to open up all of them just so we can do a quick look through and see what we got. I'll be curious if that C is any good because it's 19 points, but this was the first one. The other thing, I talk about this in some videos a lot too. One of the things that the Inner Sphere bring to the table that the clanners struggle with is it's a quantity versus quality equation. So generally they can field a lot more models because they're cheaper. They may not be as good, but they're cheap. So you have more material to play with. But their light mechs generally have more than 2 HP. So if you're going up against his counterpart, which would be better in pretty much every way, a Wasp versus a Fire Moth is not a very good trade-off for the Wasp. But for the cost of a very cheap Fire Moth, you're getting almost 2 Wasps. And that Fire Moth has 2 HP to this guy's 3. And in terms of HP for your opponent to have to chew through on the table, I also look at my combined total HP on the table. I generally would prefer to have 2 units versus 1, even if the unit does half as much damage. So to put that in an easy example, let's say I've got 1 Mad Cat, because everyone knows what that is, and it does 8 damage. And it's really, really good. But you have a Mad Cat, or 2 Mad Cats that only deal 4 damage. All 3 of those Mad Cats have the same amount of HP. The ability to hit all 3 of those Mad Cats is the same, so the amount of resources I would have to invest to clear one of those Mad Cats is basically the same across the board with some luck in the dice rolls. But if I invest all that material, or you invest your material and you blow up my 8 damage Mad Cat, I'm out that Mad Cat, right? If I invest the same amount of material to clear one of your Mad Cats, you still have half your damage potential on the table, and then I have to clear that too, which takes twice as much time to do. So that is me. I prefer to have more units that do a little less damage than one singular one. It's kind of like, this is a very poor example, but if you were playing a game of Alpha Strike and you were to bring in 12 pretty alright Inner Sphere mechs, and I brought in 2 skill 0 mechs, because this is the Karinskis of the world, you're going to smash me. My mechs will kill stuff, but the point totals for them go up because of their combat efficacy, but not their survivability. So you can have a skill 0 Timberwolf, and it's just as easily damaged as a skill 7 Timberwolf. So in this particular case, the Wasp has 3 HP versus the Fire Moth's 2 HP, which is the light of choice for clanners, which means this guy's not going to get killed by artillery in one shot, whereas the Fire Moth will. If they hit him with the artillery, he generally dies, because the artillery you'll see is usually 2 damage. So this guy survives that. He's not going to deal the Alpha Strike that a Fire Moth typically will, but he's also half the point cost, and he's not as threatening, so you can play the objectives, and if your opponent shoots at this guy, how many points did they waste on a 10-point model? And if they ignore them, they're just letting you force an objective and try and gain points. So I'm a big fan of that. So switching between the two, this is literally what I do. I'll go like back and forth on the tabs and just look at. Whoops, I just closed one. Look at the. Is that the right one? Okay, yeah. So sorry, and I'll just like look at the point difference. So like 10 points versus 12. What am I getting? I'm paying 2 points more, and I'm dropping energy, and I'm gaining case, and I'm losing 1 point of short range damage for 1 point of medium range. And in my opinion, the 10-pointer is superior. Like, I'm not trying to use this guy to shoot at medium range because he's not going to hit very well. Case means if I take an ammo explosion, instead of exploding, I take 1 more point of damage. So if they hit me with boxcars, the case might save me. But at that point, if they hit me with boxcars, they've done at least 1 point of damage. Then I'm not going to take the ammo explosion, but I'm going to take another point of damage from the anyway, so I'm almost dead. So I'd much rather just have E&E that says I'm immune to those explosions to begin with. So I would just be like, boop, you're gone. And then I would go through the same way with the rest of these guys. So this one, I'm paying 4 points more, the same spread difference. My damage is shifting from short to medium, and I'm losing E&E, but I'm gaining 1 HP. So this might be one of those, like, what is it I want to do with the Wasp? And is it worth giving up short range damage to have slightly more survivability? For me, I'd rather pay 10 points than 40% more to get 1 extra HP, so I would axe that. And I'll go kind of across the board and do this on all of them. That one's like, for me, is an instant like poop. This is where things get a little interesting. So this one is 5 points more, 1 more HP, and medium range damage. So that's going to give you a little bit more versatility. The thing I would have to consider is like, if I'm shaving points, is that 5 points worth it? So I would leave like both tabs open for this one. This particular variant here, it's got ECM, which can be good. E&E is good in tag, but ECM is situational and tag's only really good if you're going to be actually using it. So I would just be like, I'm paying points for abilities I'm not going to use, so boop. Same kind of thing here. Now this one does have a higher TMM 3, 16 jump, and case 2. The TMM is useful, but do I want to pay the 17 for that? So I would probably just be like, nope. And then we come up to the 19-pointer, which this is going to be a more damage-dealing Wasp, and now we're pushing territories where I'd rather save points, so I would just axe them. So now I've narrowed it down to these two, and if I'm list building, I would come over here, and I would be like, okay. Actually, let's see, insert. Firestarter, get out of here. Boop. All right, and that was the 3W at 10 points, and I think the other one was 15. Yeah. All right, so now I've got, dang it, opening Nova files. All right, so now I kind of narrowed it down to one of those two, and we'll move on. I feel like I'm doing a bunch of talking, so if you want to butt in, you're welcome to do so.
You are doing a bunch of talking, but I'm just listening and absorbing all this cool information because I don't look at games like this, so this is a new way.
This is 100% how I do. Like it's hard to turn that off sometimes because that's just how I've always done stuff. The Firestarter is going to be a trick here because there's a bunch of them, and I know nothing about this guy. The next one here lists the Sentinel, and I can't remember the variants, but the Sentinel is absolutely one of my favorite mechs. For the inner sphere, actually, it's so good.
And that's one that I really like the way it looks.
There's super cool
about it.
Yep.
So that's kind of why it's on this list also. But I had some luck with it in one of the games. So I was like, hey, here's a guy that did all right, so I might keep him around.
When we get to him, I'll explain why I like him. But the inner sphere, in my opinion, the mediums are kind of their meat and potatoes. They have now I'm getting ahead of myself. The mediums for inner sphere are usually pretty tanky. They almost always have 2 TMM. And when you compare an inner sphere medium to a clan heavy, the damage output on the clan heavies can skew higher. But for the points, the mediums for inner sphere, a lot of them can rival the heavies of the clans to have a similar TMM or the same. Like a Mad Cat's TMM 2, a Hunchback is TMM 2. I'm pretty sure it's a 2. The Sentinel for sure is a 2. and their HPs are probably not that far off. So then you're like, well, shit, like I'm not doing as much damage, but like in terms of how hard it is to clear me off the table, how much damage I do doesn't matter. How much material you have to invest in shooting me does. So then I like fielding a bunch of the mediums for Inner Sphere because they're usually pretty beefy. So here I'm going through the same thing I did the last time. We're kind of looking like the point spreads are so similar. And so that guy's got 6 HP. This one's got 7 for 3 points more. The damage is similar, but he's got HT2, which heat is a real mofo in Alpha Strike. If you get hit with it, it is bad. So having heat in your list is not a terrible thing to have. I like AMS. ECM is also good and situational. I usually don't lean towards these unless it's a mech I'm 100% going to remember the ability on because I forget stuff a lot. Like this one has got probe and recon and AMS. Are you going to remember those abilities? And if not, I lean towards keeping it simple, stupid. That is 100% how I function. So right now I've narrowed it down to, still got the 20 pointers, the standard because he's the cheap one, and we've got the M2. I guess we made it to OA, so we're going to skip Mirage because I'm pretty sure it's a named one, and Bobby said no to named ones, which my event had no unique mechs as well. That's pretty standard. All right, so we got the 20, the 23. Nope, don't want you. You don't have heat. Yeah. Why is that happening? Ooh, that guy's got TMM3. But so now we're getting into when we start approaching 30 points. Let me bring up another tab here, and you'll have to bear with me on my bouncing around this. I have a video that talks about this as well. I believe so we've got 3 variants here. Let me find which one it is.
Yeah, and I did use that video on points and how you select because I wanted to make sure that I was at least getting some forward movement on what mechs I should at least have as my base, and what should be, so I'm not overpaying and that sort.
Yep. And so it's like if you're deviating from those points, what are you gaining from it? So we're looking at the Mad Dog. The standard that I use is this one. So this is 33 points. This one is basically your standard Clan Invasion one. Case and Omni, 10 move, 12 or 2 TMM, 3 damage across the board, 8 life. Which this is very similar to an Inner Sphere medium in terms of what it's bringing to the table. But if you're paying more, or if you're paying close to this point total, are you getting a similar package? So we're looking at that 30-point fire starter. He's got 6 more move. He's got 12 J, but it's weak jump jet, so you're probably not going to use it. He doesn't have as much damage. He's got 1 less HP, and he's got heat, which is good, and tag. So it's like, for 3 more points, if you had access to it, you get a mech that does more damage at all 3 range bands, little less movement, little less TMM, but it's probably going to be more effective. And the jump here is not as useful because it's jump jet weak. That's only to get you in position. I don't use jump jet weak unless it's absolutely necessary. So for me, this is my baseline, and if I'm looking at a mech and it's in similar point total to this, it needs to be really compelling if it's going to deviate from its stat line. Back to a previous topic we had covered was about playing in different eras. So like this is a Dark Age era Mad Dog, and there's nothing special about it. Whoop-de-doo. This particular one is a Jihad era that's still usable in the Ill Clan here, and for the same point total, it gets flak. So it's like if you're playing in different eras, there are different variants that have stuff, and you didn't pay any points. It's the same thing, and he has flak 3, which is brutal against VTOLs. So that is one of the cases that are going to come up depending on eras and selection, but in this case, it's not something I think is going to be too big of a deal. So we drop the fire starter for that one. And I feel like we're getting into like, again, territory where am I getting what I want to be paying for? This one's pretty close, but I don't think Bobby's using Mech HQ. You're not running a C3 list, so don't need that. Another C3 don't need. Yeah, kind of the same thing. And you notice I'm instantly almost vetoing stuff. Like the more abilities it has, like the more mess you're paying for points wise, and are you using it? This one does have 4 damage. It's short, but I think that there are things at 34 points that you're going to get more bang out of than this fire starter. This one, so this is a good case of points. So this one has 7 HP total versus that Mad Dog having 8, right? But it is 30. What is going on? Why is my stuff? There we go. So he's 1 point more, similar HP. He's got jump jets, same damage, higher move, team M2. He's got a rear shot if you wanted it. Well, rear maybe shot. And he's got Omni, so this one could technically carry battle armor, which is insane. Who carries this? I mean, okay. But bizarre 5-star with Omni. So if you were trying to make a case for bringing this Firestarter over that Mad Dog, then I'd be like, for 1 point difference, okay. Like, you're getting a little extra versatility with the movement, plus he's got IF. This is compelling. For me, I think with what you have here listed, they're probably still going to get better stuff at 30 points over that Firestarter. So I think we keep the... actually, even that one too. Same kind of concept. This one has E&E, so he's not going to get exploded. He's got melee, so bonus damage, and he's leveraging. So he's traded. He's 1 point higher, two more move, and jump. And over that Mad Dog, he's traded three long range damage for a +1 at short and medium, and lost 1 HP. But I feel like for 1 point difference, most of your combat's going to be at medium range with mechs anyway, unless you're shoving for short range. So this one could also be a compelling pick over the standard we're going off of. But again, with your list, I think you probably have some better things for the point total. So that leaves me with the two that I've kind of narrowed down, which were early on. I think if you bring in the Firestarter, you're trying to leverage heat, which he's got the HT2, which is only at short, which is going to make it a little harder to use. So I would probably put both of these on the list. Let's see. Above, Firestarter. And that way, when you're list building, when you start to narrow it down, you can kind of figure out, do you have points? Like, is the Firestarter an auto-include, or is it kind of I might want to have it? And then figure out if you need to make cuts. Because, like, it could be useful, but you might have some better heat-applying options. These are in the wrong box for other mechs. All right, so next up, we have got the Sentinel, and that is one of my favorite Inner Sphere mediums. I won't say bar none, but it's one of my favorites. If I could spell. I think I got that right. So you only have access to one. That's unfortunate. Let's see what we got. Okay. So this one's actually coming in similar to, so when I was talking about the Mad Dog again, 33 points, 8 life, 333 for damage. So this guy's coming in at 10 points less. The long range damage is whatever. His short and medium range damage is 1 less, 2 less HP. His movement's better. His TMM's the same. So for 10 points less, you lose 2 HP and 1 point of damage at the effective brackets. So then he becomes just a meat shield where you have to deal with him. So I like that pretty good. I'm just going to, you only have access to one, so we're just going to put the one in there. Not a lot to talk about with that because there's only the one guy. But I do, like you said, he looks cool, and that's HP they got to chew through. But relative to the Firestarter that we looked at, so again, that's why I saved these. I can go back. This Firestarter is the same cost, so they're both 23. This Firestarter has 1 less medium range damage, but one plus 1 HP over the other guy. Heat 2 at short, and jump jets. So he gets to do stuff that the Sentinel can't quite do. But they're similar points, so you could kind of plug either one of those in. It's actually interesting that the Sentinel is actually a 40 tonner versus a 35, and the 35 has more HP, which cracks me up. All right, so let's see what else you got here for mediums. You've got a Hunchback. The Hunchback is also one of my favorite mediums in the game, and I'm going to put this in and hope that you have access to, I think it's the 4P, which is my favorite variant. Let's sort by point cost. Yep, you do. All right, so I think this is the laser one. Yeah, so so compared to the Mad Dog, so this guy is he is 1 less TMM, 2 less movement, but for 2 less HP or 2 less points, he's got 1 more HP, E&E, so he's immune to explosions, ammo explosions, and he's a 5/4 for damage. Like, he's not super like threatening, but he's not super not threatening. So it's one of those, like, when a Hunchback 4P for me comes around a corner, they either deal with him or he shoots stuff. And he's pretty beefy, which I like him. But we'll look at the other variants and see what we've got, because that one is I'm a little biased towards that one. And we'll stop at 4N as we're looking. And this is usually probably the most time-consuming part of what I do, because I'll get all this and then I'll start fine-tuning once I've got a bunch of the mechs like kind of mapped out for what I like. Now my internet, or actually, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. There was a pause there. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah, I was on mute, so if I'm snorting or something, you can't hear me.
The master unit list is just loading slow then. It does this sometimes too. So these guys are basically the same variant. Same thing. So this one has a 9 HP. They're both 9 HP. This one has more armor.
Do you find there's really a big difference in that when you're playing the game?
So if you have more armor, that means that there's a little bit more that they have to chew through to get to structure for criticals. Not that big of a deal. In this case, if I was picking between these two variants, the reason that I might lean towards the 5S is I probably don't want to be at short range with my Hunchback. I probably want to be leveraging that medium range anyway. So these two variants specific, their medium range is the same. Their points are the same. This one shifts one structure to armor, which means they have to chew through a little bit more before they start taking crit rolls. But the big deal is he's got jump jets, so that you can use that to reposition or to leverage TMM. So you're only TMM 1, but if you're trying to throw this guy up in someone's face to make them deal with them, that pushes you to TMM 2. Or if you're trying to jump onto an objective. Like if you're not worried about shooting with them, you just want him to be there to be annoying. Like if this guy's on an objective, at TMM 2 from jumping, cover would be basically a 3. They still have 9 HP to chew through before they clear him. So it's one of those, you're trading material and playing the odds. So if you watch some of my games, if we're playing objectives, a good case in point, I played against Matt LeBaron last year. I think it was in game maybe 5 at Southern Assault. And it was the one with the big circle in the middle that Bobby did. I absolutely hated doing it. But it was awful. I threw basically, and it might have caught him off guard, I threw my whole force into that circle at the beginning of the game. Like I ran everything in. And I don't know what the actual odds would be, but I'm going to throw out a number. I'm going to say that I probably had like a 66 or 67% chance to win the game on turn 1. Because if I throw all that material in the center, he has to deal with it or I'm going to score points. And once I've scored points on an objective game like that, I'm now ahead. Now I can back away from that circle in better vantage points and start shooting you when you try to score, and you have to stop me from doing that to you. That didn't work out because there's still a 33 or 34% chance that you fail, and that's exactly what happened, and I lost. But you got to play the averages. So when you go to throw this Hunchback in to determine what he wants to do, if you feel like I'm going to use these jump jets because the TMM is going to be more useful for me right now than my skill, so I'm going to trade my skill for my survivability. I'm going to throw him on an objective. If my opponent shoots at him, that's going to suck, but they have to shoot at him. The higher TMM makes him harder to clear, and they still have 9 HP to chew through before they can get him off that objective. And that is exacerbated if you have multiple units. So with your light mechs we were talking about, if my Hunchback jumps in on that center objective at TMM 2 and he's holding the objective and I jump in with my probably cost 8 Wasp that's skill 6 or something, now they've got to clear both of those, and that Wasp is a pain in the ass to kill. And if they do kill the Wasp, they still have 9 HP to clear on the Hunchback. So like you're throwing material onto objectives and you're trading with people and you're hoping that the trade is going to be in your favor. So if I throw that Wasp or this Hunchback on an objective and I lose it, did I gain something for losing it? So you'll see me do that where like I'll make an opponent deal with something. And if I'm able to leverage, like if I'm able to overload, like if I start a game and there's 3 objectives, I will almost forever and always ignore one of them. I only have to fight for 2 of them to win the game. And if you can't stop me from holding 2, you're going to lose. That's the way it works. And if I'm able to hold 2 objectives and keep you off of it, and then I have those throwaway light mechs like the Wasp, like if you're struggling to get me off of one of the objectives, so let's say there's 3 objectives across the center line, which Bobby's done this too, and I throw, 90% of my force, and I'm on 2 objectives, I'm holding them. and you're contesting the middle one, and you're trying really hard to get me off of it, and I'm holding one that I'm guaranteed going to get a point. So we already know when this turn ends, I got 1 point. And then you're holding your objective, but I throw these stupid light mechs on it that are throwaway 10-pointers like the Wasp or the Stinger or whatever. You now have to waste time shooting them, and if you do not clear them, I've contested your point, you've contested the middle point because I couldn't clear you, and I'm holding my point, and I get it. And then the next turn, I'm up points. So now I just got to fight to clear you off the middle and keep trying to contest yours. And if I don't contest yours, I'm still ahead 1. So let's say turn 1, with the 3 objective scenario I'm describing, you contest the middle, you think you're going to hold yours, I've got mine, and you're unable to contest it. Towards the end of the turn with the initiative, I throw lights on your objective. So now, contesting your point, contesting middle, and I've got my objective. You fail to get me off of yours because you don't kill those lights. We hit a net neutral middle, so we both are just beating each other up. Neither one of us gets it, and I've got my objective, so I'm up 1 point. We go into turn 2, and then I'm holding my point, and now we've both lost material, so you have less stuff to fight me with, which means you're probably less likely to pull me off the objective I already secured, which means now we're fighting for the middle, and now we're fighting over your objective. If you manage to clear me off your objective, you're going to gain a point at the end of the turn. So we're 1-1, but I'm going to gain a point at the end of the turn because I'm still holding my objective, so now we're 2-1, and if we're still contesting the middle, it's 2-1. Then we go into turn 3. We're looking at 3-2. And then we're looking at 4-3, so long as we're contesting the middle. So when I talk about getting that edge early, that's why. All you got to do is get ahead and just contest to stay ahead, because now your opponent, it's up to your opponent to get ahead of you. They have to do that. And the less material they have, the longer the game goes, the harder it is for them to fight out of that. So that's why I will shove early to try and get a lead if I can get it. It doesn't always work, but once you've got it, you get to be more relaxed. You get to put the defensive posture up and make your opponent fight for it. A good case in point for another example, Bobby's event last year, he played some kind of scenario where you had to get on your opponent's side of the table and do something. And the opponent that I played, I threw everything on his side, and we're fighting over it, and I get ahead on points. And then he starts oh, my headset just stopped. Hang on. There we go. No audio is coming through, so my headset just turned off. So at one point during the game, he stops and he's just looking at the table, and it takes a couple minutes. And I was like, hey, I think I see your gears grinding. Let me explain what I think you're probably thinking. And I basically was like, I think you've identified that for this scenario, I gain points by being on your side of the table. I'm already ahead. You have less material now, and for you to score the points the way the scenario works, you now have to get on my side of the table. I'm going to back up, and I can prevent you from, getting the points on my side of the table, so you're going to have to keep fighting me to do that, and it's going to be really hard or near impossible, because I had gotten the edge at that point, and now I was no longer obligated to continue to rack up points on his side of the table. I didn't have to. I was already ahead. I could fall back and be defensive and secure the win and make him have to fight me for every inch that he was going to get. And when we went through that conversation, he goes, "You're exactly right." And I was like, you paid to be in this event. I paid to be in this event. If you want to continue rolling dice, we will do that, and I will play with you. But you know how the scenario goes. You know exactly what I'm going to do and what you're going to have to do to try and win and how unlikely that's going to be. And then this is where being a sportsman's a big deal for me, because I'm not trying to be I don't have to be first place. I don't care that much. I said, if you want to play, we'll roll dice. If you don't want to do this and you think it's not going to be fun and you would rather sit here and bullshit with me for the next 45 minutes, I'm happy to do that with you too. I'm not going to run the score up on you because that's not fun for either one of us. And then he took a moment. He goes, "You want to just bullshit for 45 minutes?" I was like, "Yeah, we could do that." And we pulled up a chair, and then we chatted for the next almost hour about everything in life. Because he knew basically in chess terms, I had basically got the checkmate. He knew how the game was going to go. And if he himself wasn't going to enjoy those dice rolls, I wasn't going to enjoy it, so we called it. From a gameplay perspective for a tournament, I should have played it out so that I got maximum points. But as a sportsman, that's not fun. I'm not going to run the score up on someone because you can win the Super Bowl 50-0 or 50-49. It doesn't matter if you win by a point or you win by a blowout. That's the way I view it. For tournament standings, that's not the case. But for me, I want us to both have fun. So that's the way I view it. and for you guys, in this case, you as well, Dan, getting that philosophy of getting ahead early if you can, that's only going to lead to higher percentage chance of winning. It's not always going to work, but if you go into a game with a 66% chance of getting ahead, you got to take it. 1/3 of the time it's not going to work, but 2/3 it is, and that's just how wargaming goes. So back on topic. Looking at these two guys, you can make a case for either one. If you're really wanting the short range, the 4 is good. I actually think the J gives you a little versatility, especially because the majority of the game is going to be at medium range anyway, and they're both 3s, so I would knock the first one out. And then we're kind of back to the same thing here. This next variant is basically the same as the first one, so we'll knock that one. This one comes in with 2 more HP, but not 2 more HP, costing 2 more, and he gets one more point of medium range damage, so I would probably skip it because it's not a huge amount of difference. This guy, same thing. He's get some long range damage, which is unlikely to happen in Alpha Strike. Concept-wise, for strategy, Alpha Strike is usually played on like a 4x4. If you place a mech in the middle of your deployment zone, and your deployment zone is, let's say, 10 inches forward, imagine the radius from you extending out left and right to 24 inches, which is basically, fully the left and right of the table. And the closer you get to the middle, the further that big circle gets to holding the whole table. So medium range is going to be the majority of the shots you're making. Long range is really circumstantial, and short range is specifically if you're forcing to get there, like if you really want to leverage it. So when I look at damage, the medium's the most important for me. This guy does have overheat, which is nice, but I would probably try and shave the 3 points because eventually you're going to need it. This is kind of the same case, basically the same kind of variant. And we made it to there. So now we're to the 4P. So now we're getting into the ones that are kind of competing with our baseline, and they're going to have to be, for me, very compelling. Like, what is going to make me take them? So for this one, same HP, you lose jump. You do gain E&E, which means outright immune to explosions. Again, this is my favorite variant. Is 3 points more damage at medium range and more at short. Again, this one's circumstantial, but I like the 4. I like the E&E for the 3-point difference. So for me, this is probably the 2 I'd be considering, and it would come down to, do I really want the jump, or do I really need to save the 3 points? Yeah, I'd probably just axe that dude. Not bringing much to the table. And I guess you could try and make a case for flak. This one's already out because it's a prototype, so I don't think Bobby's letting any of those in. And this is a case where, so he's got C3, which you're not building a C3 list, so don't pay points for that. The 5 damage seems appealing, but he's 40 points basically, and for 40 points, there's better things you can bring. So I would immediately just skip him. And then the same thing here, 6 damage is great. Actually, that guy's got Team M2. So this one's an interesting case. I haven't seen this one. Is that also Mercs? Shit, dude, All right, so we're looking at our baseline here. So he's got Team M2, 12 move. Our baseline mech is Team M2, 10 move. Our baseline mech, I think, has 8 HP. 8 HP, so their HP is the same. And they both have case. This one doesn't have Omni. This guy has he costs 9 points more. He's got 2-inch more movement and double the damage. This variant right here is and he's in the TMM. He's higher, one higher TMM than all the other ones, and 4 movement. This is a banger right here. TBH, this is probably a hunchback that I would use. That's absolutely silly. Was that 41? 42? He's a little pricey, but 6 damage compared to our baseline at 9 points more. You're paying 9 points more and you're getting 20% more movement and double the damage. That's stupid. Yeah, so if you needed to shave points, I'm gonna actually throw these guys into dang it. Because if you really needed to shave points and you were compelled to bring something else, you might. But I think for me, that 42 pointer is probably the go-to. So we had 28 and 31. Okay. And I'm just going to because I'm a little bit of hubris on that one, I'm just going to put a little green on them because that reminds me that's the one that I would want. All right, so next up on the list,
Um,
and
how
go ahead.
about for
What's
the
up?
sake of time, we would go to the next thing? I mean, I understand. I don't mind doing this. Maybe we can do it together another time too. But
Oh, I didn't even
um,
know how long we've been going.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm just
I don't
super
want to bore
excited.
everybody. I mean, it's entertaining listening to your
Oh,
thought processes. So I'm just wondering, like, what would be the next step after you've already come up with your
okay.
full list?
So I would, if I had all the list of mechs here, then I would come in and I would start being like, what do I absolutely have to have? So I would come through and be like, okay, so I really want this. Actually, let me grab a couple of mechs real quick, so that I could kind of get a list going here.
Yeah, no problem.
Whoops, if I could type. I didn't even realize, like, you nailed that. When I looked at the time, like, I've been rambling for an hour about like 5 units. Um,
Well, you
all
said it's the
right.
most time-consuming part of it, where you're going through and
Yep.
trying to
It
pick stuff out.
100%. So let me grab a couple of Marauders. I'm going to try and speed through. I don't remember the variant, but there he is. Like, okay. Um, so to get you involved, is there anything about these two variants that strikes you why I would pick what I would pick here? Like, so we got the 5M, 1 TMM 8J441. This one's 1 TMM 8331. This one has 9 life. This one has 12.
So for me, it's I would like really the first thing that would like jump out at me is the amount of life. I
100%.
want a sponge. I would
Yep.
definitely want a sponge.
And he's
Um,
cheap for that. Like 34 points. He's 1 point more than this guy. He gives up damage, but he's got relative to this guy 33% more life for 1 point. And like, so we're looking at the baseline, the Mad Dog, 33, 210, 333, whatever. This guy doesn't have the TMM, but it's one of those. He doesn't do a lot of damage. Is your opponent going to ignore him? And if they don't ignore him, they're going to shoot him, and he's going to soak up so much stuff. Like that's where I'm at too. I kind of cut you off. I got super excited.
no, that's cool. No, that's all right.
So we're kind of on the same level. So I'm not a big fan of glass cannons. If you gave me a Marauder, and there probably is one, let's just go to the bottom and grab like, I don't know, this one right here. What is he? He's super expensive. I don't even know why it's super expensive. Let's grab, no, it's not going to work. All right, I don't have a good example. But if you gave me a Marauder that had like 8 damage but 6 life, I wouldn't want it. It does a bunch of damage, but it's a glass cannon. Versus this guy, your opponent's going to be like, oh, he only does 3 damage, so maybe I'm going to shoot at that Hunchback who's doing 6 damage, who costs more points and has decent HP, and then this Marauder's just chugging along, like doing his thing, and if they do shoot at him, you know, it's going to soak up a bunch of shots. So you throw him forward on the objective. This guy gets to go forward and get shot at, while something that's more important gets to be more defensive. So I'm a big fan of the Marauder. This is the 3R. So we're going to grab that one, and I'm going to come over here and grab Marauder, and that was what, 34? 34 points. All right, so let me make sure that he got pulled into our list builder. And this is, again, where the Inner Sphere, I feel, is got an edge over Clanners because their stuff is so cheap. Let's see. So we got that. We got our Hunchback that I want to use. Let's bring him over. Add him to the force. I do like that spider, so we're gonna grab that spider. And then I don't remember what Bobby's max unit count is, but I also try and be fluffy. So if I'm playing Inner Sphere, I'm typically gonna run 12 models. And let's see, let's grab the Sentinel because you got one. And let's actually see how many units I just added. So we're at 5. You still got plenty. We got the spider. Was there a Mercury available in this era for you? I don't think it was. No. Okay, it was only in the Star League era. So given what you have, I don't think we've missed any lights. So I'm going to grab the cheap fire starter. Add him to the force. And that puts us at 6. So I have 6 left to add here. There is a catapult variant that I think is very similar to the Mad Dog. And I think for list building right now, I don't remember which variant it is. We're going to see if I can find it. One of these has probably got artillery. And that's probably the one that I would recommend. Oh, that's got heat. Yes, please. Yeah, so like looking at this guy, this one's got 12 HP versus this guy having 8, and he costs 1 point less and does the same damage. So like that's an auto no, don't want you. This guy's got a little bit more HP, 2 points more damage. It's got long range and medium range, but I'm gonna probably go with the one with heat. So yeah, okay, we got the artillery one. So ooh, that one also had artillery. Hang on, what was the last one? Was it the catapult 2? No. I feel like I'm kind of like a rabid monkey when I'm picking stuff. I'm just like clicking around. So from you list building, are you interested in running artillery, or do you not want to use that?
So I just don't run artillery.
Okay.
So it's not something I've really thought about.
Okay.
I mean, I like having that effect, but I mean, do I really need to? It's not something I would go out and search for yet. I mean, I still play this game as it's a bunch of robots. I'd like to keep as many of those as I can, but it is kind of fun to throw some other little things in there.
Okay.
So I'm thinking for this one, though, this year I probably wouldn't, and I probably just need to pay more attention to how artillery is being used this coming year.
What I think artillery does for players is gives them something that makes your opponent have to maneuver their forces a bit more carefully, or they get punished for it. It also gives you an easier way to deal with lights. The problem here is if you did want to run artillery, this guy's relatively expensive to bring it in. There's probably some cheaper options to get them. So like in this case, I'd probably skip the artillery catapult. This one, who dishes out heat at medium range, I'm a big fan of heat in general, and you don't have a lot in your list right now. So that is probably the one that I would lean towards. And unfortunately, Bobby won't let you bring duplicates, so we're just going to have the one. I know you have 2 catapults listed that you have models for, but we'll come back around if we need to. I also like kind of playing Highlander-ish, where like I like to bring a lot of different things. So let's go in and let's check Rifleman now. So I like to bring the Rifleman because it's a oldie but goldie. Like everyone knows what it is. It's a classic mech. You'll see me run that and the Shadowhawk and Griffin quite a bit. So this one has 9 HP versus 8 for a 2-point difference, but you do have overheat 2. Let's see what we got. Moving up just a little bit. E&E. I don't mind that one. So for 31 points compared to our baseline, he's got the same HP as our baseline, 1 less TMM, a little less movement, which is expected for a heavy 4-inner sphere. He comes in at 2 points less, but he does have 4 damage at medium and short. Probably gonna be sitting here at medium quite a bit. I don't mind that one. I don't mind the 28 as well because it saves 3 points, but for 3 points more, I get 1 more point of damage. That's kind of where I'm at. At Nova, big shout out to Vandal, Craig Lighton. He's also a patron. He gave me some compelling thoughts on why one might run overheat, because units with overheat, generally their points are cheaper because of your damage is roped up here. And he likes to use it where he can leverage the overheat in 1 turn to spike damage and then duck behind cover to rotate out. So that might actually be a reasonable strategy. It makes this Rifleman cheaper at 26 points, at 9 HP. And if you needed to, you could double your damage in a jiffy with the overheat and then duck into cover. Because his damage output is low, your opponents might ignore him in favor of other targets that have similar stat lines that they can hit that they view as more of a threat until this guy decides he's going to overheat for 4 damage. Now, it's not a lot of damage, but with Inner Sphere, at least for me, with my philosophy of playing, it ends up being like death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing versus 1. So I could see it going either way, either the 31 pointer at 4 damage or the 26 at 2. I would probably lean with the 31 for now because I get 4 damage all the time, and I don't have to overheat. But if it got to a point where I was having to shave 5 points, I know I've got that backup. So let's add him to the force, and we'll throw that at 31. And so we'll go insert one row above, rifleman, and the other one was 26. And was this one? Yeah, it was this one. Okay. And boom. All right, so are we sitting at, I think, 8 models now? 8, so we still got 4 to go. Which, again, with Inner Sphere, you got a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, because their stuff is so cheap. Let's grab the Archer. I think that is a pretty iconic mech as well. And let's see. I'm just gonna. I think it's the 5R that I run, but we'll see if I'm remembering correctly. So we made it to the 7S. I'm gonna go with no on that because it looks stupid. All right, so this is another one of those where like the dude's got 12 HP for 37 points, 333 for damage. So similar to our baseline. His movement and team member less, but again, it's a heavy Inner Sphere, so we're used to that. And he can overheat for long, and he's got a lot of HP. Again, kind of death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing. So I like that. I feel like there's a 5. Yeah, so there's a 5. Let me go through the full list here, because I feel like there's a 5 damage one that could also be a little bit more of a pull. A little bit more of like a tent pull, so to speak, for your list. Well, I guess if your faction gets access to it. Yeah, so there we go. 13 life, 354 versus 333. This one is 7 points more, but you get 1 extra life. And IF2. Yeah, I like that one. Those are identical, so it doesn't much matter. Is that is useful here? Make sure. Yep, okay. So let's go ahead and add that one over, and that one is 44 points. So this one, well, he's pushing a little bit of your points. He's a little bit more expensive. All right, so Archer, 44. Now, at this point, I might be getting ahead of myself. Let's actually see where our points are sitting. So we got 9 units. We got 3 units left for where I would want to be, and we're at 261. So we have 104 points left to go. So as we are approaching these, kind of keeping that in mind, and this is why I like lights so much, because they're cheap. Which leads me to looking at your list. What do we have that could be cheap to field? Let's see. Let me type in Trebuchet and see real quick. What do we got here that's for the Trebuchet? Did I type that right? All right. So we got a 29 pointer. The TMM's not terrible. So if we bring him in, that still leaves us with 60-something points. Yeah, let's grab him and just see how we do. Is that 29? Trebuchet, 29. Okay. And let's see, I'm trying to find some cheap ones. Let's check out the crossbow. What do we got for that? 1. We got 1 crossbow usable in this era. I'm gonna go with. He's got a bunch of HP, but it's a little pricey, and I'm kind of speeding through here. Let's. Do you have any units on your list that are on the you might want to paint list, like upcoming?
Oh,
like for this, is this locked in, or are you open to painting anything before?
Oh, no. Nothing is locked in. This is my fun try list, and then
okay.
I have other. So actually, the only one. Let's see. I'm done painting archers. A black. Well, we want something small, right?
Yeah, so I would love to throw in a locust. The fact you don't have one on the Inner Sphere list, I feel like is a tragedy, and you should have a locust.
I thought about locust. I just didn't dig too deep.
Let's dig in some locust. We're gonna put in like a preliminary, just as a recommendation.
We can throw it on this list right here.
Yeah, I'm looking for the one with the 2 damage. There's a variant that. Actually, we're in the Dark Age. There is, let me find it. There's one with like a TMM4 There, so there's the 2 TMM, 20 points, 2 TMM, 220. Its movement's not great, but that's still pretty good for the points. Let's go find that 4 TMM one, because that Locust is absolutely stupid. And if you're playing Dark Age, you might as well leverage that silly Locust anyway. TMM 3. Yeah, I like that one's got 4 HP, but I'll take that short range 3 damage over. Where is the one with the TMM 4? Yep. So that's only got, yeah, no, he's got C3. We're skipping that one. There we go. There's the TMM 4 one. Absolutely stupid. Yep. All right, so we got it. Oof. TMM 5? What is this madness?
That's awesome.
He's got 36 move with TMM 5. What the world is that?
You know what? I think I would just have that just because it'd be fun just to screw around with it.
I mean, he's 5 points more. You're paying 5 points for 12 extra move and a TMM 5. You know what? Like, for people in YouTube land, my baseline Locust, this one's good. There's the, is it this one? This at 20 points, 3 TMM, 16 move, 220. This is a Locust I throw all day because he's dirt cheap. For the lulls here, the 320 for similar stats is really nice because that 3 at short range is nice. Getting on someone's rear, going to 4 is really good. TMM 4 though, for 20-inch move and marginally more points is super duper nice. But we're approaching silly territory with this one because 24-inch move, TMM 4, and only 1 point more and E&E, so it's like, okay. And then this one, he is 5 points more, so he's 31, but he's got 5 TMM. That's it's absolutely stupid. I'm gonna put that on the list as like a maybe, like if you want to grab something. What was that, 31?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna put them more like probably less trolly and a little cheaper. I think it was 26, and TMM4 is still really nice. And again, it's one of those like, do they shoot at you? Also, like 36 move on a 4-inch map or 4x4 map with deployment might be overkill. You're never gonna have to sprint because you'd be wherever you want to be. That's absolutely insanity. According to its list here, it's usable in the Ill Clan, Dark Age by Mercs. And its rules level is standard. Technology is just inner sphere. So like this is not an experimental. So like as far as I can tell from Bobby's stuff, this is good to go. But we've got the 2 Locusts if we really need to shave 5 points. I'm not as keen about spending 30 points on a light, but also like this could be hard for him to kill him. So I think that puts us we're at 11, and we've got 54 points to go. So let's see. We also want to have some room to up some skills. So let's grab one more mech from your list here. Is there one from your list we haven't grabbed that is like one that stands out to you that you like that one? Or one that you want to play with because it's like a favored mech? Or
as in any size? I mean, we hit pretty much. Do we have?
So you've got.
We don't have a battle master, and I think we talked about that originally. That's like really, like the one of like my top 2 or 3 that I have in my army at all times. All
right, so let's check out the battle master.
Beefy and kind of pricey. Or can be.
What was that Locust? That Locust was 31. This battle master's 8 points more. Only 8 points over that Locust. All right, so let's close the Locust tabs here and let's start opening some battle master because I think he can round out. We're gonna go up to the 10S for the 50. So looking at our baseline, comparing 1 TMM, 8 move. So he's similar to some of the heavies we looked at. 331 for damage, not super high. OV1, but he's got 15 HP, which he's a chunker, and I like that. This one's different. Oops. That was Mech HQ. I keep hitting the X thing. There we go. Let's bring him back to the front. All right, so for the same HP, or not same HP, same cost, or almost same cost, this one's a 40 versus 41. For all the same stats, I think we go with the 40. For 42, did I just close that again? No, okay. For 42, looks like same HP, but higher damage. Yeah, I feel like for 2 points more, I could see a case for that one. Not worry about that because it's the same. All right, so we're trading HP for damage, which I don't like. Trading HP for overheat, don't like. Same thing, trading damage. All right, so for me, this Battlemaster, the 3M, is probably what I would go with. It keeps him pretty lean. You get your damage without having to overheat for it, and he's got 15 HP they have to chew through. And he's still going to fit right in with your other heavies that you've fielded, because his stats are similar, so his TMM's the same. They're going to have to make choices. He's not like an Annihilator with a 0 TMM. So let's go find the Battlemaster, and he was at 42. 42. All right, so let's refresh here, make sure we got our list. All right, so now we've got 12 units here. And for Inner Sphere, this is your company. You got 3 lances, got your full company. So the first thing I would probably do is come in here and grab these lights, and I would immediately be like, all right, your skills are going up. So I'd probably start with 5s. Actually, you had a Wasp as well, so I'm probably going to put that Wasp at 6, probably the Spider at 6, just saving maximum points because who cares. Probably leave these at 5 for now and see. You could make an argument for that Locust being a little better because it does have medium range damage. But that leaves you with 23 points to invest in higher pilot skills. So looking at your medium range damage, you got 5, 4, and 6. So now you have to determine where you'd want to leverage your points. So that Hunchback is a similar cost to your Archer and your Battlemaster. Actually, it's the same exact cost as your Battlemaster, but he does more damage. So if you make him a skill 3, he's coming in at 50 points, but it makes him a little bit more of a target. His total life here is 8 versus the Battlemaster's 15. So for me, if I was going to try and leverage points, I might put the Battlemaster at a 3 because he's going to be on the table longer. They're going to shoot that Hunchback before they shoot the Battlemaster, probably because he does 6 damage. So I'd rather leverage that skill for an 8-point swing in something that will be on the table longer. That's me. And then you could put the Archer at 3, because he's got less damage than the Hunchback. So you've got 2 dudes rocking at 3, and you still have 6 points to spare. And let's see who else we got. I don't mind a Rifleman at 3. What's that going to put you at? Yeah, so there you go. If you run this, that was actually serendipitous. If you were to run everything skill 4, your Fire Starter and Locust at 5, your Spider and Wasp at 6s, which aren't going to be doing much damage anyway. That Spider is 110. The Wasp is 200. They're there to jump, be annoying, and hold objectives. That Wasp is 8 points. Like, if Bobby didn't cap that, you could literally be like, I'm going to bring 5 Wasps, please. And just annoy people on objectives because they still have to shoot at them.
That's no winning sportsmanship on that one.
No, you wouldn't. 100% you wouldn't. Which, for me, while that gives you some pawns to play with, which I think is important, your list is also a Highlander list. Even though Bobby lets you bring 2 of any chassis, as long as they are different variants, you have a list that has 12 different minis, and I like to do that because it's fun. It looks fun on the table, and if I'm going to roll dice and blow up your stompy robots, I want to have fun doing it, and I want you to like looking at my cool toys, and vice versa. So in this case, the units that aren't going to be doing much shooting are at skill 6. Your Locust and Fire Starter are 5s because they're hopefully going to be leveraging short range anyway, which you're going to be hitting stuff on average of a 6 to a 7, which is a roughly 50-50 hit. Again, your Wasp and Spider aren't going to be hitting anything, but that's not their job. Everyone else is held standard at a skill 4 because they're just here to have fun. The Archer and your Battlemaster are kind of your pocket damage dealers at skill 3, so they have a slightly above average to hit. Your Hunchback is there for a nice spike damage. The only reason I would not want to put him at a higher skill level is, again, his total combined HP is 8, versus the archer alone has 7 armor, almost as much armor as the hunchback has total life, and the battlemaster the same way. So for a similar point cost, I'd rather put it into them because they're going to be on the table longer. The more points you invest into your high damage units that are glass cannons, the more likely your opponent's going to want to shoot at them. Now, that said, Bobby may have it this year where the skill cap is, I think he's got it set to 2 skill 7s. So I would probably do something like that. And I'd probably bump these guys to 6s, which means they're going to be needing slightly above average to hit. That brings you 8 more points to invest. And if I was trying to leverage damage, then at that point, I would probably grab that hunchback and drop him at skill 3. Now he's a target, but your wasp and your spider aren't hitting shit anyway. Your firestarter and locust are still going to be hitting things on 7 and 8s versus 6 and 7s, which is not terrible. Also, they're going to die if they get hit anyway, so that's okay with me. And the things that deal damage have a higher propensity to do so. That 7 on the spider and wasp really does make them useless for anything other than holding objectives or getting behind someone and getting lucky, but that's what they're there for. So I think Bobby's got it set up that way where you get 2 7s. And then I think you can have 2 7s.
2 7s and 2 2s.
Yep. So this right here, like if this was the models I had, this is something I would probably play. If I was going to drop anything, it would probably be like if I wanted to shave points. Let's say we're not trolling. Let's drop that locust. Let's grab the 26-point locust and throw him into the mix here. Let's see. Hopefully it doesn't reset on my stuff. It sure did. All right. So yeah, the hunchback at 3, the wasp at a 7, trebuchet, spider was a 7. Where are we at? Locust. So we'll put this is the locust that is a team M4, not a 5, but he's like 11 points cheaper. We'll make him a skill 6. We'll make the or not 11 points cheaper, 6 points cheaper. Firestarter will be a 6. And we had the archer as a 3 and the battlemaster as a 3, and that saves us 11 points just dropping that locust, and that is probably a skill 2. Yeah, that's a skill 2 with points to spare. That's probably, yeah, so if we go skill 3 on that, and let's see, can we shift anything? Yeah, so like this one's not quite as 100% tuned, but your trebuchet doesn't have a lot of damage. The rifleman does. We can shift that trebuchet to like skill 5, rifleman down to a 3, your marauder down to a 3. So like by dropping that locust and getting the troll off the table and putting in another locust with similar damage, less TMM, but you save like, he's cheap now. That lets you bring in a skill 3 archer, a skill 3 battlemaster, a skill 3 marauder, and a skill 3 hunchback. Your sentinel's still skill 4, which allows him to like hit on average hit. You're actually... Scratch that. Let's check the math. 30. Nope. Sorry. The 29 versus 23. What happens when we put him at skill 5? Boom. Perfect. So make the sentinel skill 5 because he's only got 3 HP, or excuse me, 6 HP total. That trebuchet's got 8 for a similar damage profile, so he's going to be alive longer. We give him the higher skill, so he's going to be able to enjoy that. You're at 75 points on the dot, and by dropping that locust from the troll to a more reasonable locust, you've got all of your things that deal damage have a higher likelihood to deal damage. Your light mechs that aren't dealing damage, that are your pawns, have the higher skills to account for that. And then these two can still get behind someone and attack them. So yeah, this is probably where I would be at if these were the models that I had and I was bringing to the table. I would at least at the very least try this out. Let me see if I want to fine tune one more thing. Let's see. He's got 12. He's got 8. What happens if this is where I get into like the nitty gritty of maneuvering points. So that's 76. If we switch that trebuchet back to a 5 and that sentinel back to a 4, we're back to 75. So there are a couple ways you could slice that pie. That rifleman does have a little bit more damage, but he's got 8 life versus the catapult's 12. We drop that catapult to a 3, put that rifleman back to a 4. Sentinel's at a 4, trebuchet's at a 5. You're still at 375, and then your slightly less damage dealing, but on the table longer units have a higher or better pilot skill. So, a few ways that you could shift that, but that's probably what I would do. And that's a meaty list. Like you got plenty of things to throw in objectives, and your opponent has to deal with them. Any thoughts? Because I've literally just for like an hour and 20 minutes, I've just talked straight list building.
No, this is pretty cool. This is definitely a much different process than
Hmm.
I use. Mostly, it's just looking at figures, which ones I like, and then
Yep.
which ones I want to use, and then going into the system and finding those,
Yep.
and then kind of sort of doing the fine tuning, but not a whole lot, but not really like analyzing like
Mhm. Oh
all of
yeah.
them within a certain chassis or something. You just that's something I just don't do. So
For
it's
uh,
something I definitely will try to add to my process.
It is. It's a lot. So I'll say a few things. I don't go to like tournaments necessarily to win, but when I do play, and I play a match, obviously the objective is to win. So I'm not going to throw the game to someone. But my lists are not fine tuned to the point that they are, I think, tournament level. I think that they are a good all comer list. So like this list right here might not take first at Southern Assault, but I think this is going to give some people some trouble. So like last year, I lost playing against Carrie Joe, which I think she was either number one or number two. It was either her or Varga that was number one at Bobby's event last year, and I gave her a good run for her money, and have a few of her dice rolls had went south. I probably could have won that game. Um, and she had a much more competitive list than me. So sometimes it comes down to dice rolls, and sometimes it comes down to how you play your list. So there are some things on Alpha or on Master Unit lists that you could do and you could search for that would be more competitive. But if these are the units you like, which what we did here is exactly what I would do. I would literally I would type in all my Wolves Dragoons into a spreadsheet, and then I would be like, okay, I have to have this Mad Cat. Let me go find it, add it to the list. I really like this Marauder. It looks dope. I want to play with it, add it to the list. And then I would start to fine tune from there. I would have this list of mechs that I really want to play with. And I was like, okay, how do I get 12 Wolf Dragoons on the table and make the points work? So then I start being like, okay, I got to cut a few dudes and I got to throw in some lights because I got to cram them in there, which is what we did here. We crammed in these like 7-point wasp. It's 7 points out of 375. Like, the upgrade for the Hunchback from skill 4 to skill 3 is literally the cost of the Wasp. Like, that's like, I'm pretty sure he was like 8 points. Yeah, 8 points. 42 to 50. 8 points. That Wasp is 7 at skill 7. Like, it's a no brainer for having the pawns on there. But you're fielding all units you own, except for that Locust. You'd have to paint one, but that's still, a Locust is iconic for Inner Sphere. And these are all models that you owned or had painted, minus that one. So like you're not. We may have built a list I feel is probably good with the models you have. We didn't go find models that are super good that you didn't have because they're good. Like we're playing with models you wanted to paint, and I think that is the difference. So we've kind of crafted what might be a good list that is also minis that you want to stare at on the table, whereas other people don't do that. One of the things I will say, let me go back to the Master Unit list for a moment. If you are fine tuning, this is a very powerful tool. So let's drop the Battle Master here, and if you were trying to do a few other things with this, we're going to type in HT into the Alpha Strike tab, and I dropped the title here, so there's no unit specific. This is just mercs in the Dark Age era. These are all the units that have heat. So if you were trying to leverage heat, like this is how you would find it. So you obviously got your fire starters, but like if you're looking for a specific ability and you want to leverage that, that's really good. So like let's check out this Hellbringer. This is like we didn't get into any clan tech, which you're playing pretty pure to Inner Sphere. For Dark Age era, if you whipped out some clan mechs, like that's also fluffy because at that point, like Dark Age, Republic era, Ill Clan, Inner Sphere has clan stuff. They've had it for hundreds of years at that point. Like this Loki is dirt cheap. He's 30 points. So compared to our baseline, our Mad Dog here, 33, 8 life, 333 for damage. This guy's 3 points cheaper, same TMM, same movement, same life, less damage at medium. It is overheat for 2, and he has heat 222. So at long range, he deals 0 damage, but if he could still roll 2 dice or 2 pairs of dice at you and deal heat at long range. This right here, for your force, if you had a Hellbringer, I would 100% drop something and bring this for 30 points. It's dumb. Like, applying 2 heats, the maximum heat you could put on a mech, an enemy mech every turn, and this guy can do that. And he can overheat for 2, so you can, like, really leverage some damage. Like, it's stupid. Now, is that getting more competitive? Probably, but if you had one and wanted to use it, like, go for it. And he's 30 points. Like, that's absolutely insanity for 30 points. But that's if the point I was getting at, I suppose, is if you're trying to leverage the unit list or the unit builder knowing how this functions right here is super helpful. Another thing you can do here that I like to do is look for obscure abilities. We're going to see if you've got access to one. You do. So I typed in CR, that's crit resistance. And let's see if you've got access to a Savage Wolf. You sure do. One of my favorite Dark Age mechs. I doubt you've got one because it's metal. But it's got the ability crit, or CR for crit resistance. When I built my list last year for Bobby's event using my Dragoons because they're Dark Age era, I had several units with that. Crit resistance means if I take a critical hit, it's -2 to the roll. So if you rolled a 12, it's a 10. So my guy would never get hit with a 12. He could get hit with double ones, though, because a 4 would reduce to double ones. But that's another small thing you can look for. So knowing that is super powerful. So if you're going through like the Alpha Strike rulebook and you're looking at all the special rules and you're like, hey, I've never seen a unit with RFA, which I think is reflective armor. You just come in here, type in RFA, and then you're like, oh shit, these units right here, my faction has access to. What are those? What's this Flash Man? And I'm clicking it just to see because I'm curious. And there you go. He's got RFA, and you've got your stats. So if there's a specific ability you would like to build around or find because you think it fits your list, that's really good. You could do the same thing with like IF. So if you want to find like indirect fire, which you're probably going to see like archers and catapults, actually a whole bunch of stuff. That's a very common one. But if you're trying to find something specific, that's massive. A lot of people don't know you could do that, but like that right there is like the secret sauce if you're trying to build a list. Even more so if you're trying to find obscure stuff, because we've only looked at mechs, like finding all that stuff in your combat vehicles and infantry in particular. I know I'm going off base here. But if you're trying to find like the heat twitch again, if you're playing, for example, Carrie Joe last year had a very good Alpha Strike style list, not in the name of the game, but in what it does. It does a lot of damage early. Much like with my talk about getting points early to get ahead and then try and like defend because now the onus is on your opponent to take it from you. Carrie Joe's list was a very Alpha Strike heavy list where if she can deal a bunch of damage to you early and trade material quickly with you, she can get the points because she's denied you material at the beginning of the game that you then don't have to score points with later. That's how she played it. Josh Varga played, and so I searched for HT, and we're in the Dark Age. You go over to infantry, and we would sort this. He brought in a bunch of standard infantry dudes, probably foot platoons, and they had HT. And he would drive a hover vehicle forward, dump out. In my event, he used 4 of them because actually it might have been 5 because I didn't have a cap like Bobby does. But at Bobby's event, I think he was running like 2. You drive forward with your hover vehicle or an aircraft or whatever it is, and you dump out this infantry surrounding a mech, and you just start unloading on them with heat. If they shoot at your infantry, oh no, 8 points a pop. That you still got to kill them. Probably makes them like skill 5 or 6. Those things are like 6 points apiece, and they're nothing. But you have to shoot them. If you don't, they're going to hit you every turn. So that's some stuff that you can search for in here when you're looking for that if you want to do that strategy. For me playing, you don't see that often because I've already painted the mechs, and by the time I've built the mechs I want to play with, I don't have points for this other stuff. But for you and for anyone who happens to be listening to this and got anything out of it at this point in the video, combined arms for Alpha Strike is the bee's knees. If you want to be super competitive, that's where it's at, because these dudes are cheap for what they bring to the table. And much like our baseline for this Mad Dog, where it's 33 points, 210, 333, you get to bring in material that your opponent has to deal with. Like, so that flip platoon that's a flamer, it is only 8 points, but it's 8 HP. Or not HP, sorry, 3 HP. So your opponent still has to do 3 damage, even though they can almost not miss. That's still, like, if I'm shooting at you and we're playing and you bring foot platoon flamers and you're trying to barbecue one of my mechs, for me to kill that foot platoon, that's at least 1 turn of this Mad Dog firing all of its guns. It only does 3 damage. That's 33 points of my force, so around 10% of my force-ish that I have to shoot at them. And that's assuming that he hits all of them. If they're at medium range, right, against those infantry, I need 6s to hit. I'm probably going to hit with 2 of them. That means another unit has to then shoot at those infantry, and now I've tied up maybe 50 or 60 points or more of my forces to clear out 8 points. Infantry are absolutely insane because they do damage, and then when they die, they don't hurt your opponent that much because they've already done what they need to do, and then they've denied you shooting at something more important, and you can't ignore them. So that is where Alpha Strike is super strong. Or like your combined arms and infantry. So for your list, you obviously don't have them. For my list at Bobby's event, the only infantry I bring is a couple battle armor because I run clan tech and I have the guys running around on the Omni stuff. But I think at his event last year I had 2. I didn't, and they weren't like that. So, but yeah. Do you have any thoughts? Because I got back on that soapbox real quick.
I have lots of thoughts, but I need to digest everything that I was looking at this evening.
Cool. Do you have any thoughts for me? Because I tend to talk quick, and this ended up being a little less back and forth and more of me literally just rambling about stuff. And either you are muted and you're watching YouTube, or you're muted and you're like processing. I don't know which. But if there's something,
pages of notes here. So no, I'm digesting. I'm not
nice.
Watching YouTube.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts for me in regards to like if I was trying to articulate this to you again or to someone else? Is there something I could do better? Because like this is good stuff to talk about. I think there's a reason I think you opted to have us do a video session talking about list building versus painting. Because like honestly, I've seen some of your models in person for painting. I think you got it, and a lot of that is like more just you painting more if you wanted to get really good at stuff.
You guys have like some kind of like joke going on? I must have heard that like 20 times the last week.
No, man. Like I was looking, I got a video up of me doing the grinder breakdown from Nova whenever that goes live. And I was talking about your minis, and my favorite one is still that Zeus. And we're side tangent here, but that's what we do. I told you at the beginning this was going to be more like a Twitch stream versus like anything formal.
Yeah.
The color of your mechs with the like almost smoked jaguar kind of like dots on them.
It was meant to be that, but then I didn't. So that was supposed to be the story. And then I realized that I mixed up too many mechs, and then I didn't have any decals. And I was like, well, shit. I was like, I can't do this now. I only got like a couple weeks left.
Yeah.
And then I had to go into planning. I was like, you know what? I'll just make this kind of like semi. So I repainted the legs because I had dots over the whole thing. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to put any type of markings on it. I just put numbers on it. And I'll put some other little stickers and decals on it. But I won't put anything to make it just generic enough. But if somebody wanted to call it Smoke Jaguars, they could.
That was the vibe I got.
That is definitely what I was trying for.
I mean, it works. And if they've been on clan mix, 100%, like with clan decals, like I would have been Smoke Jaguar all the way. The dark grayish tone of them, with the like, you had kind of a pinky purple cockpit, if I recall. Like the blending that you got, like when you were talking about like, oh, you know, back to your Patreon and you can show me the paint stuff or whatever. It's like, cool. Now I'm a little bit panicky because I'm like, what do I show this guy? And then I look at what you did, and it's like, I could just tell you what you're already doing and just be like, do it more and get better at it. I'm probably not gonna be able to tell you how to do it any better beyond just paint more, right? But like the cockpit.
Someday you and I are just gonna just chill somewhere, and we're gonna freaking airbrush and dry brush an effing mech because I can't get your blends. I haven't been able to figure that out. That's why I'm throwing bills at you, man. Figure out how to do all that.
I think this is the secret sauce for that one, my dude. For anyone that's watching and made it this far, I do a lot of airbrush, and there's nothing wrong with dry brushing. I do it. The Army Painter, like I've got the Rosemary & Co. Dry brushes that are similar. I didn't actually like them that much. They're very similar. For whatever reason, I don't know why. The Army Painter, like their masterclass ones, they're my favorite. Yeah. I've got those. I got the Artist Opus dry brushes, and they were so expensive I didn't want to use them, so they're still in the case, which is dumb. Why I have them? But like I will airbrush. I will come in with a dry brush using again the Army Painter masterclass dry brush, and I also use these makeup brushes. These Wet n Wild ones. They're dirt cheap on Amazon. And they do work. And like the dry brushing you get on these is very different than you use if you use like one of these GW. Well, this isn't GW, but like one of these filbert brushes that's flat. You could do dry brushing with that, but I find those a little better for like targeted dry brushing for edge highlight. Those rounded ones, like, because like this masterclass one from Army Painter, this one looks like a makeup brush, and it feels like a makeup brush. And when you think about what people are doing with makeup on a curved cheek, they're blending a color in, and then as you go from the cheek, where like on a woman's face, maybe they're doing makeup, and they're doing the contouring and all that shit. You get like the color, but the color is not the same down here, but it's a slow, like a subtle transition. It's not a hard line. That works on your mechs. Like you use this thing, and you get similar things when you play with it. And that's the secret sauce, man. This right here, this thing, the dry brush, and then I'll come in. I'll do some washes and so forth and some glazing, but once I've done that, it tones the color down just a little, and then I edge highlight on top of wherever I did that dry brush, and it makes it look like I cheated, like excuse me, I not cheated. It makes me look like I did a lot of time, but I really cheated. Like this is secret sauce, man. So I'm happy to show you sometime, but that is the jam.
We definitely will. I have to do it by hand, and I have to be spoon fed. But I will definitely, because I watched all the videos and it's not helping me out. But then, like you said, and everybody else has for the last week and a half, I just need to practice more. Yeah,
I mean, that's my buddy Teal Security, Eric. He's probably not watching this, but if you guys aren't following him, like, dude's super good. He has really improved over the last several years. He's taken a lot of paint classes, and I've asked him like his honest opinions on some of them. Some paint classes he's taken with really good artists is stuff he already knows, and he's like, this was fun, but he didn't say waste of money, but if he knew it going into it, like knew what he knew after, he probably wouldn't have spent the money because he already knew what they were teaching him. And then there are some artists that taught him stuff he didn't know, so he's got some skills he's picked up. But I think from watching him, the thing that has helped the most, beyond like feedback's really good because our artists say, hey, have you tried this? Or here's a thing to do more of. That's really good. But for him, like, it looks like the majority of his growth was learning that you can know what you know, but you're not going to get better until you use it. And that's what he's done. Like, he literally just paints. Like, I told him I paint one bust a year, and I like what he's doing. And if I want to be good and do better like he does, I need to paint more than one a year. That's what I need to do. So same thing for you with your mechs. Like, if you're trying to get better with dry brushing and blending, you're not going to get better with those if you're not actually doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And while we're on that soapbox, one of the things that I think is important is, like, try that stuff, do it, and get to a point where you're reasonably happy. And if it's not perfect, finish it and then do another project. Don't get bogged down restarting on those things, because if you do that, I could find a reason on every one of my models for why I'd want to do it again. But if I do that, I'll never finish anything. So my favorite artist probably ever, Lester Bursley, told me once, an artist's work is never finished. It is simply where they decided to stop. Because you will always find things that you want to improve, but at some point you have to say, I'm done. I'm going to go to the next piece. And in regards to the mechs I've seen you do, I think that's where you're at. And the smoke, definitely not Smoke Jaguars you did were great. And then I think last year at Bobby's event, you were initially going to do, if you didn't bring them, I think you might have, the black and orange dudes. They were like half and half.
That was the first year. Oh, let's see. I did those the first year. Wait a minute.
Because those were pretty solid too.
The first year. That was the first year. The second year, I was going to do the black and the orange, but I ran out of time, so I couldn't do it. So I just did some kind of weak dry brush thing, and then everybody laughed at me because they thought we were all space wolves. And then and then I did yours, and then so I think I'm just going to use what I have now and then add a bunch of pieces to it, because I'm not going to have enough time. Even though I have 2 months, I still have to do stuff for Bobby. So,
you're painting stuff for Bobby too?
No, I'm helping out.
Right.
Our little thing for Southern Assault 3.
Oh, did you want to talk about what you're doing, or is that not official yet?
I think it's official. I just keep things kind of quiet.
Oh, I mean, if you want to talk about it, you can. If you don't, I'm not going to spoil your jam.
No, I'm going to, the big thing is I'm going to help Bobby out with the painting competition. Mm-hmm. So I'll be helping with some of the judging. We have some swag that we'll be putting in the bags with everybody.
What kind of swag? Because you don't ever drop what you're doing. What kind of swag?
Well, it's a little late in the year to do some really cool stuff, but one thing I thought would be kind of cool, because it's been super helpful for me, and you can't see my screen because my camera's not working for some reason. But these little pocket notebooks
Oh,
that for
there's a
writing.
guy. There's a guy on
Yeah.
Instagram that had one of yours. Are they red?
Oh, no, no, I'm not. Those are fancy ones, man. Those are expensive. These are the little
Oh, okay.
cheaper ones. But I hope they're about 20 or 30 little pages, and you can like take notes in them. And we can't get the logo put on it, but we're gonna get stickers, and I made some special stickers,
Okay.
for Southern Assault 3. I showed you, the ones I showed you last week.
Right. So
And
what I was getting at was not necessarily exactly what the swag is. What are you promoting? Like talk about you.
Oh, I'm not promoting anything really. I mean, I do
It's
have
not. It's not your podcast. Yeah.
it is. I do have a podcast, Listening to Paint Dry, and we talk about the art and hobby of painting miniatures. So it's really just, a great way to confuse people by having a podcast about a visual medium. And yeah, it's kind of fun. So we have interviews with people. It's my partner, Mike. And you might have seen him here and there. He usually goes to ReaperCon, but
Okay.
we
Yeah,
live
it's the
pretty
same
close to
time,
each
right?
other. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Next year, I think he's thinking about coming to Nova, so I could use some help at the Capitol Palette. So yeah, we just do a fun little podcast. We talk to artists. We try to, tell stories, talk about things, because we both don't like doing video, but I think we're going to change that this year. We're going to start doing some more videos so you can look at our ugly faces, or just turn the camera off.
Oh, you don't got an ugly face. You got that interesting like beard thing going on.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody likes that. Also, I got these cool dice from you. I still have them in the case.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to order a new set of dice for next year with different colors. So when you
Full
guys
set
see
or
us
just
around-
a new pair?
Oh no, brand new sets.
Because I got this empty one.
got-
I need a pair for that.
Yeah, well, you'll get the new one. You'll get a new one soon. And then by Adepticon, we'll have new ones to hand out to the Battletech folks when they kill one of my mechs, or
Oh,
if they
nice.
say hey, or one of our Patreons or something, and we'll hand some dice to them. So we'll have different colors and stuff. Or people
So
that are just really cool to us. We
Like-
we throw stuff out like, yeah. That's why you got everything,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I got the cool one
And-
because
And
one
the
of
cool
these
thing-
is you, one of these is your buddy, and then the other one is it Murder Crow Studios? Is that right?
yeah, that's my personal one.
Yeah. See, I remember.
Yeah. So we have Murder Bird Studios, which I'm trying to rebrand some year. Then we have the Listen to Paint Dry one, which is the amber and
Mhm.
milk color, and then we have those blue ones, the
Let
bright
me
blue.
see if I can. Let me see if I can transition here. It's been a while. Let's see if this camera will shift over. Because let's see. Let's try this. Nope, wrong one.
I think most of the listeners and watchers
Nope.
are probably falling asleep.
Probably. And here I am clicking the wrong thing.
But you know what? If you have an hour, you're supposed to paint for at least an hour a day to keep up your skills and learn new things. And usually listening is much better than just watching. So if you're listening to us while you paint, that's cool. If you're watching what we're doing while you're making your mech list, that's cool too.
Next time, it's been a while since I used OBS. I'm literally over here like mashing all the buttons. I just in the middle of you talking, I put up a transition thing. I still hear you talking.
Just,
I'm like, oh my god.
Just go to the Adepticon review one, and I think that's when you showed the dice when you did your swag bag thing.
Switching over to like the full webcam is better. Like my scene that shows the camera, my actual good camera, for whatever reason it's jacked up, and it's not targeting, which is why. But like this one, you can see the dice. So we had the Murder Bird Studios, the Listen to Paint Dry, and what was the blue one? Same logo, but with the little spikes.
That's Mike's. Those are his personal ones.
Yeah. So those are the dice, and I was cool. You guys in YouTube land weren't as cool. Dan gave me dice. So yeah,
We gotta get rid of them so we can buy new dice.
Oh no, you never get rid of dice. You always add more dice. That's what you do.
Yeah, I got so many freaking dice.
Yeah, dude, my dice bag's full, and there's always room. The only reason,
I don't know what to do with them all anymore.
and these are perfect because they're pairs, so it's great for Alpha Strike. The only reason they're in the Alpha Strike bag with all my other dice is they were in this tin, and they're kind of there, and it was cool. And then I feel like if I take them out of the tin, what do I do with the tin? Because once they're in the bag, they stay in the bag. That's what happens.
You just use the tin for storing any of your other stuff.
I mean,
What other stuff? You've had some other cool ones. You're like, hey, I'm going to save these instead. And you put those in there.
My dice bag is where the cool dice go. The super cool. These are on my shelf with my These are literally laying next to my capital palette medals. So
Cool.
that's
Actually,
where
they
those
probably
were at.
just should stay there because they roll like crap. At least mine do.
My personal dice roll like crap too. My actual amp services one, they're pretty bad.
No way, man. Well, which ones are the Death Ray ones that you had that were red? Those are fantastic.
Those
I
are
do
dumb.
like those.
When John plays Battletech with me, he likes to use them because they
Oh,
consistently roll
really?
high. Yeah.
Oh,
hmm
geez, now I feel bad. I'll be using them all the time.
No, use them. Use them. Those are your crit dice. Get hit with the Death Ray. That's what happens.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I appreciate you being on here and supporting what I'm doing, which I think is pretty awesome. It's also something that's hard for me to accept, but I have to deal with it because I put Patreon up and people do what they do, and then I just gotta suck it up and let people support. So
Oh man,
I appreciate that.
okay, I'm saying I hope you're not. Geez, man, I can't believe I actually have to talk to people and talk about
Oh
stuff
no.
I like.
I mean, yeah, what I like. It's more like, so I have a video whenever it goes up talking about imposter syndrome. I don't know if were you at the awards show at Nova? I hope not.
I was there. And,
do you see how awkward I looked?
I wouldn't say it was awkward. I was
it was
eyeing
awful.
you because I knew. That's why I sent you the text and say, "Hey, you need to get your butt down here," because obviously I know the results, and I didn't want you to miss that because you're going to be running around and doing things.
Yep.
So I was watching to see what your reaction was and everybody's reactions. So no, it's a normal reaction, man.
Oh man. So I talk about it in the video where I'm on video here now because I live stream. This is fine. I'm comfortable. I can run the events. I was fine. I'm comfortable. I can generally get up in front of a room and talk and I'm comfortable. But the moment that I got an award and it was just me, that's different. I'm not talking to you, I'm not doing anything. I'm now being honored for something, and that was terrifying. It's very different. And the only thing that made that better was when I was like, I'm not sure what to do, and Sam Lins was like, anything you want to do, you won, and that was fucking funny. That was very comfortable. But I if you compare when I walked up the previous times to that one, it probably was night and day. I feel like I looked really awful because I was very. It's I used the term imposter syndrome. I couldn't believe that I was getting that. It didn't make sense to me.
I think I think that's just prevalent within our community. We we want to get there, and then when we're there, we're like, oh, this is kind of, I'm not used to this. So were you there when I did my little spiel?
I wasn't because.
Or did you already bug out? Okay, because that's how I felt. I was like, I can't believe I just volunteered to come up here and balk. And I was like, yeah, I just want to be back and just hand out people their little figures. I don't want to sit up here and talk, but I think the judges, I just want to give some recognition to the judges.
Yeah. Which I reached out to Will, which I thought was cool. That I'm really excited for him to get back to me at some point. I'm not worried about when that is, but the fact that I've talked about this before, and I know we're rambling here. It's what I do. Last year at Nova, 2022, you were helping me check in. So big shout out to Dan. People in YouTube land are going to hear this, and if you're at Nova, don't get mad at him. He's helped me for 3 years in a row now get my stuff entered because I run a booth with DRD and I run events. And then normally we also do a paint class. This year, Nova dropped the ball, and hopefully next year they'll have that. But because I do all of those, it's really hard for me to get in and get entered.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that offline.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Dan didn't help me with anything.
No. I'm talking about the paint class.
Oh, yeah. I spoke with them. I wasn't mad. I talked to Owen anyway, and was like, hey, I'd like to do this. We were supposed to. And he's like, oh, it slipped through. I was like, it's cool, but next year we always do a paint class. I want to do it. I'll bring the stuff. So whatever. I'm not bad mouthing them. It's more they had a lot going on, and Battletech stuff is probably towards the bottom. But I'm hoping it.
Yeah, we can talk offline about the behind the scenes stuff, which is not bad. There's nothing bad was happening. It's just excitement, new things.
That's fair. But last year when Dan was helping me get my stuff in there, because again, so since that's not what you're segueing from, I'll continue. Because I do all those things, sometimes it's hard for me to get down during normal hours. So the past 2 years before this one, after hours, generally Dan pings me and says, hey, I got a few free moments. You want to come enter your stuff, since you're not working now. Or really early, something like that, which helps out because I'm always busy. So this year, the same kind of thing where I wasn't going to be at the awards show because I don't have time. The only reason I was there is he pinged me and I kind of connected the dots I should probably be here. for this thing. And normally, like, because like as soon as I was done, when they started going to masterclass afterwards, like I went ahead and I was like, I want to stay. It's cool. I want to be respectful, but I gotta work. So I had to go right back to the booth because we were tearing down at that point. But last year, as I was entering my models to have you put them in, this dude next to me, like, he kind of looks at me. He's like, "Hey, you're the armed painter," and I was like, "Yeah." Who are you? I didn't know who it was, and it was Sick Willie, the guy that judged my piece 2 years in a row. That dude followed me on Instagram, and I didn't know that. Like the dude, and last year awesome. he won. Like he was like the winner with the red robe chick, and the fact that I'm standing next to a guy who follows my Instagram and knows who I am, boy, he's some crazy award-winning artist. Like that was humbling. Like I don't think that necessarily means I'm like crazy good, but it's also like this dude's following people, and he's on the level of like I may be super good, but like these are my people. This is my community. So I felt really good. And the fact that I found out that I didn't know till you told me that he judged my pieces. I didn't know he judged it last year. So the fact that he judged 2 years in a row, like I feel like his feedback would be invaluable because there's something raw, something that hopefully triggers like last year's was a silver, but this year was a finalist. What was it? What did I do wrong or not do well enough? Or was it like you needed to improve more and there wasn't? Like what was it? So I would be very curious what that is. Yep.
It's fun things. Yeah, we could talk about the community for hours. That'd be a different show.
That's true. Like maybe if you have me on your show at some point, which should happen.
I know. I've been promising you for 3 years, and I've dropped the ball for those 3 years. So
yeah, we could have done multiples at this point.
I know.
I mean, content is content, and carving out some time. Like, I didn't say it, but I grabbed myself a little adult beverage. I was sipping and talking. That's what you do. That could absolutely happen. That said, before we get off today, one last thing, because I feel like the list building is important, but the painting, I think that's the thing that is constant. No matter how good your list is or how well you do or not, the painting still happens. One of the things I think you have a interesting opportunity that the average person doesn't is you rub shoulders with a lot of people. So I don't know if you ever do ask, but if any of them are ever open to talking to you, like you literally are rubbing shoulders with all the people who have all the keys to the kingdom. And I think that's super cool. Like the fact that you're literally standing next to people who are like crazy award-winning artists who would probably talk to you. And I think that's awesome. So,
they do, but it's kind of like one of those weird things because you're just like, hey, I really could learn like a shit ton from you in like 5 minutes. So we both, I'm not going to say suffer, but we both do the same thing. Like, holy crap, should I be talking to Eric or Will or Sam or any of those other guys? Yeah, I'm name dropping. Should I talk to those guys and say, can you help me out? But on the flip side, they're super cool. And they'd be like, hey, I'm free for a couple hours. Let's just go grab a drink and let's go look at your shit and let's go paint and stuff. They're that open. They're really cool.
That's one of those, like, if I was in your shoes and I was talking to Will or Sam, because I know I've met both of them. I've met Sam a few times, and like he's like a rock star guy that paints. Like I never would have guessed he painted until you knew he painted, because like doesn't fit any of the stereotypes. But if Sam was like, yo, Dan, like, yeah, I got a few hours to kill. Let's grab a beer and check out some minis or something. I'd be like, yo, beer's on me. Like, if you're going to talk to me and give me some one-on-one, like, pointers, like, I will buy you the beer. Like,
we'll talk. We're going to talk about some of that in our show. I think we're recording it tomorrow.
Nice.
About Adepticon, about Nova Open and Reaper. And there's a couple of times where that has happened, where you're just sitting and chilling, and it's not the Uber conversations like when Eric and Thibaut and Christoph are like with their figures and they're like, they're priceless miniatures and they're all talking about them.
Yeah.
And they're going like deep down that freaking rabbit hole about talking about stuff. I'm not having those conversations.
Yeah.
But it's just artists like chilling and talking and I was trying these new paints out, and then everybody talks about like those paints, and then they bring something else up, or like maybe brushes. I know it sounds like a nerdy conversation, but that's just how we kind of like bond. And
it's good stuff.
And then it just goes in other places where we're talking about like, remember at Adepticon this was going on, and then you just talk about like Chicago, or somebody would be like, hey,
Giordano's food.
Yeah, or I was down
Yep.
in KublaCon down in San Francisco, and these are the places we went, and like this is what the experience was, and then you're
Yep.
just shooting a breeze, and by then you've all down like 3 or 4 uh, beers or something, and
Yep.
then you're just like, who knows where the conversations went after that.
The
Those are long effing nights, man. Those are
the
long
uh,
nights.
the different opinions I think would be pretty wild. I know at Nova a year or two ago when I first met Sam, I didn't like fangirl. I knew who he was. I'm like, I'm not gonna run up to him. I'm not gonna be that guy. I'll just wait. And then at one point he's talking to Austin because he knows him. And then I got introduced. I was like, that's how I wanted this to happen. And then we had a conversation about paintbrushes. And that dude would basically be like, I'm going to use a used, I don't know, makeup brush or something stupid and paint a masterpiece. That's not actually what he used. He would talk about using the cheap $5 packs of brushes from like
Yes,
Hobby
he
Lobby.
is.
Yep.
Yes, that is his thing, man.
That's
And it's
wild.
and it shows you that you don't have to spend all the money
Yep.
on
Yep.
those super expensive brushes
Yeah. Technique
because
is a
Sam is
huge
able
deal.
to do it. And,
Yep.
and there's a neat, there's a lot of merit into what he's saying,
Yep.
because how many brushes can you use that are $5 for a pack
Yep.
before you come up to a cost of a $30 or $40 single brush?
Yep.
You can
And I've
here's
bought a
some work
lot,
out of it.
but yeah, exactly. And like, I'm a big fan of like having the right tool for the job. I think skill is important, which Sam clearly has, so he can overcome. Like, he could probably paint with a toothpick if he wanted to at this point. But like, I compensate a little bit by having good brushes, but like, there's applications for that, right? And if you don't use it right, you just have a $30 brush you just tore up because you weren't doing it right. Or you're like someone who does loaded brush, where like you can use a really good brush, but like if you get good at it, you're just going to tear it up. But that's just the price you pay for the technique. It is what it is.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah. But that said, I think if we continue, we will ramble. So I think it's probably a good segue. We could talk more about art stuff, maybe on your show if you have me on. So I appreciate you doing this. This is a little bit longer. We'll put it up there for anyone who is watching right now. This is Dan, Pig Clone, I think you said, on Instagram. And this is one of the patrons and the guy who runs the Nova Open Capital Palette. So if you went to Nova, or haven't gone to Nova, you should go. But if you went and did not enter stuff because you were afraid, enter your minis. This is the guy. He helps do all of that. And I'm not just saying this because I want to like give him a pat on the back and help promote what he's doing, but I'm a big fan of entering a piece not because you're wanting to win, but because you want to express yourself. And I like, for me, going up to the case like this year, like I know we're segueing, I'm going to get to the end here. You put my diorama in one of those side cases, and there was only like small levels, so it was by itself. Seeing that way, like I think it was mostly because that was where it would fit. But I was like, hey, it is isolated the feeling and emotion of this piece. Anyone who sees it, like, it's conveying the full thing. There's nothing to distract it next to it. Above it, yes, but not next to it. So that's cool for me. And then even just walking by and like seeing my bust in the case, it's like, I know what I was feeling when I painted that. If someone else sees it, are they feeling what I felt, or do they feel something completely different? At that point, it didn't matter about winning an award. It mattered that I took a piece of me, like 30 hours, put it into a brush onto a toy, and then that toy might make one person feel something that is really important to me and feels cathartic. And for anyone out there who is worried or afraid, just try it. Don't worry about the awards. Just do it because it makes you feel good. And you never know. There's going to be that one person who walks by the case, and you may never see them, but they look at your piece and they get something from it. And know that happens. So if you take anything from it.
It's one thing that artists do miss, and I get to experience a lot of by being back behind the cage, is people that are pointing out figures and saying, hey, that's really cool. Oh, that's awesome. And they're saying every single one of those figures is getting that type of recognition, even though no one else sees it. So people should know that. And, when we see kids do this a lot, and I don't want to say that this is just like, having an art show in your elementary school or anything, but when we have the kids come in, they are stoked when their figure goes into the case. They're waiting there like, a dog waiting for a treat for me to put that figure up there. And there are multiple times where people, if they don't see their figures up there, they're asking what's going on. Like, why isn't my figure out? Why isn't it out? They need that type of feedback. They need to see it, and they want to see it. And then that's a stressor that's taken away from them when they see their picture, when they see their figures out there. They're like, hey, it's out there. I did a great job. Mission accomplished. If I get anything after this, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's just
Unfortunately,
icing.
yep. Unfortunately, people don't get to see all those interactions, and
Yep.
maybe there's a day that we can convey that out to
Yep.
everybody. That like everybody's looking at your stuff and they're happy to see it.
Well, it's almost like the statement or the philosophy of like, if a tree falls in the wood, did it actually make a sound? And in this case, like the artist might not see that tree falling, but you do. And that, even though they weren't there to see it, you still know. And one thing that I think is very important beyond just getting your emotion out, because painting's cathartic. If it feels like a chore, you're doing it wrong. And I say that as someone who it has felt like a chore, but like, you got to find a way to get it back on track to not being that, because it should be a form of self-expression, in my opinion. But no matter where you are, whether you're like a masterclass artist or you're someone that's beginning, or anywhere in between, there's someone that's going to see your stuff. And yes, you can walk up to the masterclass case and you can be like, holy shit, this is insanity. But I think that there's a lot that goes on where someone sees a piece and they're like, hey, that might be kind of in my level. Maybe I should try what they're trying. So no matter where you are on the spectrum of a beginner or like a veteran, there's someone else out there on their own path, their own journey, that is probably somewhere in your ballpark of skill level. And you may actually be in motivating them to try what you're trying and encouraging them just by them seeing it. Or they might be like, hey, this guy's painting similar models to me. Maybe I should put mine in the case. Like, you're encouraging them to do it. And to say that, for some people, they may think that that's like, it comes across weird, like, someone maybe necessarily competing or thinks they're better. I don't think that's what I'm trying to convey. It's more like you're inspiring someone because they're seeing something and they're saying, I can do this too. And I think art's supposed to be inclusive. And the one thing that kills me is if someone, and this happens to me sometimes, but probably even worse when someone sees that the master's class stuff, they see a piece and they go, I could never do that. Why even try? That irritates me. It's like, I may never be on the master class level, but I don't have to be. All I have to do is paint stuff that makes me happy.
We get that. I hear that an awful lot, and I hear, "Oh, I'm just not going to put my figures in because I can't win."
Yeah,
and that one kind of bothers me a lot too. But I really can't be there to say, we try to like ease into a conversation, because there's a lot of people, we're artists, man, we're worst critics. Put it out there anyway. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to see your figure out here with everything else?
Yep.
And those that. There's some folks that chase medals and awards, and that's their motivation, and that's cool. So they are seeking that, but some people, that's just not their interest. Like you said, like, hey, I just want to paint and enjoy it.
Yep. I mean, year one at Nova, I entered Sanguinius, and I didn't place, and you helped me, and I didn't realize there was a height issue, and you, I think, let me squeak by, because like it might have been borderline, because he was on that big chalice thing. He didn't place, but I was still happy. I was like, I painted this. It looks super cool. It's in the case. I took photos, sent it to my buddy, who I painted it for. And then the follow-up year, like however that turned out with COVID, whatever the disparity was for time. But I entered the two busts because I had we'd missed a year, I think, and I had some leftovers. And then I got silver in one, and I was like, what? And then I got, I guess, that finalist for my Clan Wolf stuff. So yeah, I've progressed a little bit, but like I was content when I didn't place for the other one because like it didn't matter. Like you guys could have gauged my stuff wrong, and Will could have been like, we're gonna throw this guy a bone and we're gonna give him gold just because we could do it. And then it's like, it doesn't matter. You could have given me bronze or finalist. Admittedly, a little disappointed about my bust performance, but that's mostly me just wanting to be better. But like, the award doesn't matter. Like, I'm just when that video comes up, I'll be curious for you to watch it because like, I
watch all your videos, man. I watch them all.
I didn't give the full explanation, but like that bust was huge for me. Like that got me through a really rough time. Several months back, but when I was working on it, so the fact that it was in there, like, like me being tough on myself, wanting to do better is one thing, but like I put that piece up, and if even one person was like, yo, I feel something, that was the point. So TLDR, if you guys made it this far, paint your models and enter them and enter it because it's what you want to do. Don't worry about the prizes. Like, you ain't going to the Super Bowl here. You're just putting some models up and trying to make yourself feel good with the art that you've achieved. So that said, I haven't planned out exactly how to sign off here, Dan, but I appreciate you doing this with me. It was a lot of fun.
I'm the one who's appreciative, man. You took some time out of your evening to walk me through some stuff, and I hope I have been at least one battle when we come up, but next 2 months now, in November.
Yeah.
I'll definitely do better. I'll be ready to go and excited to see everybody again. And that's what
Well,
that's a whole other conversation too.
we'll see. I know you're gonna have a lot going on because if you're having to focus on the paint stuff, like you're gonna have your brain pulled in multiple different areas. But I think if your goal is to like go in and have a good time, and if you get a win, cool. If you don't stress over it. I will say this at my event, one of the guys that placed towards the bottom, I'm gonna give him a shout out, Justin West. He placed pretty low, but not because like he wasn't good at the game. He was just so focused on having a good time and chatting that nothing else mattered. And in this case, if you're not trying to win first place, I just go into the games hoping you got 6 games. Just have a good time in all of them. That's what matters.
That's what Southern Assault has been, this like magical kingdom to go to for Battletech folks, and just go and enjoy it. I enjoy the games, but so much more do I enjoy before and after the games, just hanging out with everybody.
Yeah, this year, 96 people.
I know, man. It's so many thinking people. It's gonna be pretty intense.
I think it's going to be nuts, and I think it's a good topic to end on here. In terms of painting, obviously being proud of yourself and doing what you do because it's good for you. You're not competing with anyone else but yourself. Going into a tournament, there's obviously going to be a winner, and that is what it is. But approach that from a perspective where the path to wherever you place is what's important, not just where you place. And at Southern Assault, again, Bobby's got 96 people. I've been for the last several years. There's only been a couple of like super tryhards. The majority of the community is on the same level of like, we just want to play Battletech, have a good time, roll dice, and laugh. And that's what makes a tournament great. And I think that is why we're seeing Southern Assault grow like it is, and the more hyper-competitive Battletech stuff is struggling to get numbers. And I think that's because the average gamers probably want to have a fun game and not a cutthroat game. And if that's what you're into, consider looking out for Southern Assault. If you don't get in this year, maybe next year, you'll have a good time. Bobby runs a tight ship, and the majority of the players are super casual. I don't like tournaments. I run one, but I don't like playing in them, and I play in Bobby's, not just to support him, because it's fun. If his rule set was not, I wouldn't play. So for me, that says a lot. So take from that.
That's exactly where I'm at, and I think a majority of our players are like that too.
Yep. So that said, Dan, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for anyone who's made it this far in the video. If you agreed or disagreed with my assessment of units, please sound off below. If you learned something, also sound off and let me know. Or if you have some other ideas, critiques, or thoughts on how you might approach list building, sound off too. Maybe me and Dan can learn from you too. That said, I think we're going to sign off. So Dan, thank you again for hanging out with me today.
It's been a joy. Thank you very much for having me.
And as always, folks, keep rolling your dice, keep painting your models, and we will catch you guys next time.